The north wind howled fiercely, countless snowflakes drifting through the sky like goose feathers. It's really cold this weather. The young boy rubbed his hands together constantly, occasionally breathing warm air into his palms. The wind grew fiercer, its howling echoing across the vast land. The young boy patted the snow off his forehead, looked into the distance at the enormous junkyard. Almost there. I hope today I can find something to have a full meal. If I find something valuable, that would be even better, the young boy dreamed. The young boy came to this junkyard with ease. Actually, it was not an ordinary junkyard, but a pile of abandoned mechas. It was also one of the largest mecha graveyards on this planet. Thousands of damaged mecha parts piled up into small hills. This young boy was named Mo Tianyun, and he came here to find relatively intact core components and mecha cores containing rare metals. Only these two types were valuable, ordinary parts and common alloys were worthless. Found it! Mo Tianyun exclaimed while taking out a palm-sized small box. He quickly placed it on the snow, pressed a few times, and with a flash of sparkling light the small box turned into a large box. He then opened the box and picked up a mecha dismantling laser scissors. It turned out the box was a spatial toolkit. With a movement, Mo Tianyun took dozens of breaths to jump onto the 30-meter-high platform. He took out the laser scissors taller than a person, aimed at a mecha hand in front, gently squeezed the scissors, and the mecha hand severed with a sound. At the same time, he released a giant sword about 10 meters long. The great sword fell clattering onto the ground. Actually, the sword was extremely heavy. Mo Tianyun felt the ground tremble for a while. At this moment, Mo Tianyun jumped down along the way, looking at the giant sword with delight. But it's a pity the core of this sword is too severely damaged. However, the surface of the sword was intact. Its material was forged from naturally formed metal deep within a star, still worth tens of thousands of star coins. If the core were intact, its value would be 150000 star coins. This giant sword looks almost identical to ordinary mecha weapons. If I hadn't seen it in Grandpa Zika's book Rare Mecha Material Science, I would have missed this giant sword. No wonder it was thrown here. Ordinary people cannot recognize this material. If I were a combat mecha pilot and had a combat mecha, this giant sword would come in handy. What a pity for such good material. It seems I can only sell it. Mo Tianyun was still rejoicing when a loud bang came from afar. Following the sound with his eyes, Mo Tianyun saw a group of golden wolf beasts charging toward him. It must be that the noise from the giant sword falling disturbed these beasts. With my speed, I can't escape. They'll have to teach them a lesson. Mo Tianyun looked at the 8 golden wolf beasts 100 meters away. He opened the spatial tool kit again and pulled out a laser sword. This is the first time I've fought a real beast. Staring at the golden wolf beasts ahead, Mo Tianyun gripped the laser sword, his legs suddenly exerting force, and charged at the leading one. The golden wolf beast saw that this human dared to charge, immediately opened its huge mouth, revealing sharp fangs, and viciously bit toward Mo Tianyun. However, Mo Tianyun's laser sword was faster. With a flash of light, the golden wolf beast was decapitated. The remaining 7 golden wolf beasts had 2 more killed by Mo Tianyun in the same manner in the next instant. At that moment, 2 from the left and 2 from the right simultaneously attacked Mo Tianyun. Mo Tianyun smirked. He had expected these beasts to ambush him. So he leaped forcefully, stepped on one golden wolf beast, then bounced again. Simultaneously, with a sweep of his laser sword, 3 golden wolf beasts were sliced in 2. Then he stomped down in midair, severely injuring the golden wolf beast he had stepped on. The slowest golden wolf beast saw this, tucked its tail, and turned to flee. Running away? Not so easy. Mo Tianyun grabbed the laser sword and threw it forcefully. With his swish, the golden wolf beast was pinned to the ground, dead beyond any doubt. Just as Mo Tianyun was about to put away the laser sword, a chill ran down his back. He turned sharply and saw a huge golden wolf beast leader. The previous golden wolf beasts were over 1 meter in length and about 1 meter in height, but this one was about 3 meters long and nearly 2 meters tall. Mo Tianyun's expression turned serious. If it slaps me, I won't even make it home. Then he yanked the laser sword from the golden wolf beast's body with his right hand. At the same time, with lightning speed, his left hand reached into his pocket, took out a blue cube, and pressed a button on it. A blue light barrier enveloped him. Mo Tianyun activated a low-level energy shield on himself, his right hand gripping the laser sword tightly, his eyes fixed on the huge golden wolf beast leader. The golden wolf beast's weak points were its head and belly, other parts were highly defensive. Just as Mo Tianyun was on full alert, the golden wolf beast leader charged over its sharp front claws, slashing and reaching him. Mo Tianyun leaned back, the wolf claw grazing the shield. He took the opportunity to slash the golden wolf beast leader's body with his sword. The leader's other front claw slammed heavily onto the energy shield. Bad energy is running low, Mo Tianyun thought to himself. If I'm hit once more, the shield will break. The golden wolf beast leader would not give Mo Tianyun a chance to hesitate. It attacked the human who had wounded it again, determined to tear him apart. In an instant, the leader's claw struck at Mo Tianyun. Mo Tianyun dared not attack recklessly, only dodging continuously. The leader's attacks grew fiercer, and Mo Tianyan leaped and dodged like an agile monkey. This won't work. Once I'm exhausted, he'll get hit, and the shield will break. Even if I'm not hit, the shield energy will slowly deplete, and it will dissipate when the duration ends. Either way, it's a dead end. I have to take a gamble. It's either you die or I die. Mo Tianyan gripped his laser sword tightly, dodging while staring intently at the golden wolf beast leader's head. He knew he had only one chance. All he could do was seize the moment and deliver a fatal blow. Tianyan, your martial arts talent far exceeds ordinary people. Becoming a genetic evolution martial artist just requires a little effort. You have the potential to become a high-level martial artist in your life. You must always temper yourself and not bury your talent. The more critical the moment, the more you must stay calm and not lose your composure. The stronger a martial artist is, the stronger their inner heart. The path of a martial artist is rugged. One must not only have extraordinary talent, but also unyielding determination. You have talent, but you lack a martial artist's heart. What is a martial artist's heart? A martial artist's heart is to always believe in yourself and believe in the martial path you walk. The martial artist's heart is a spiritual power, an indestructible spirit. Mo Tianyan gradually recalled the scenes of Grandpa Zika, teaching him martial arts, remembering Grandpa Zika's words. The martial artist's heart is a spirit, an indestructible spirit. Mo Tianyan murmured to himself while dodging, watching the golden wolf beast leader. After dodging another claw, the leader's eyes turned ferocious red. After dodging a claw, Mo Tianyan leaped backward, quickly steadied himself, and then charged at the golden wolf beast leader with all his strength, his right hand gripping the laser sword tightly. The golden wolf beast leader did not show weakness, either crazily raising its front claw and slamming down at the human. This time, Mo Tianyan did not dodge. As he sprinted to the leader, he clasped both hands together on the laser sword. The martial artist's heart is a spiritual power. Grandpa Zika's words echoed in his mind. The laser sword held with both hands pierced straight through the golden wolf beast leader's head, and at the same time the shield shattered. The young boy pulled out the laser sword and sat quietly on the golden wolf beast leader's body. The 8 golden wolf beasts lying around the messy snow and the snow stained red with the leader's blood all indicated that this place had seen a fierce battle. After resting for a while, Mo Tianyan recovered his strength. My spiritual level has reached perception. Ooh, I can sense everything around me, and my power has doubled. Mo Tianyan slowly adapted to the changes in his body. These beasts are heavily contaminated and cannot be eaten, though otherwise these golden wolf beasts would last me a long time. Mo Tianyan returned to the giant sword, opened the spatial toolkit, and stored the sword. At that moment, a strange force mysteriously influenced him. Books say that the lairs of powerful beasts often contain rare treasures. I wonder if it's true. A sudden idea struck Mo Tianyan. Driven by curiosity, Mo Tianyan began searching for a cave nearby. This should be the cave. There are no other large caves around. Mo Tianyan arrived at the entrance of a cave, which emitted a nasty stench. Suppressing his nausea, he walked inside. The cave was over 10 meters deep, pitch black inside. Mo Tianyan took out a light source, and in an instant the light illuminated the entire cave. He looked closely and felt there were a lot of good things. Wow, this is a combat mecha core. This is an energy crystal, and it's medium grade. This is a mecha accessory core. What's this? A metal ball. Whatever, take it. Mo Tianyan took all these items away. Jackpot, I've hit the jackpot. No more starving. But I almost lost my life. Grandpa Zika was right. Wealth comes with risks. But why do all these things appear together here? Never mind, let's go back first. Home was 35 kilometers away, taking 2 hours to walk. Mo Tianyan came here every few days to collect mecha parts to sell for food to survive. Originally at this age, Mo Tianyan should be in school. But 5 years ago, Grandpa Zika said he had to go to the front lines to fight the Zerg and would return soon. Yet a year later, the bad news came. Grandpa Zika had fallen in battle. At that time, the young Mo Tianyan felt as if the sky had collapsed upon hearing the news. Zika was a combat mecha pilot who died on the front lines. According to regulations, the Empire should have provided a pension. Although Mo Tianyan was found and raised by Zika, he was still family, yet Mo Tianyan never received any pension. When he was in school, Mo Tianyan was the most famous genius in Han City. He broke the city's entry strength test record upon enrollment and ranked first in both combat and theoretical exams every time. After Grandpa Zika's death, Mo Tianyan could not afford school and dropped out. When he left, the entire school was rejoicing and dancing because there was no longer a great demon king looming over them. Mo Tianyan walked on the road with heavy snow falling. The 35-kilometer journey left him a bit tired and even a bit cold. But on the way home, he skipped and jumped all the way without any trace of fatigue. Even the bare tree trunks along the path felt exceptionally dear to him. It usually took him over an hour to get home, but this time he made it back in less than an hour. Mo Tianyan's home was in the slum village on the outskirts of the East District of Han City. Originally, Mo Tianyan's home was not here. When Grandpa Zika was still alive, they lived inside the East. Grandpa Zika was a combat mecha pilot, and also a mecha repairer. His repair skills were quite renowned throughout Hantan City. Since childhood, Mo Tianyan followed Grandpa Zika to learn combat and mecha repair. Especially his repair skills earned praise from Grandpa Zika. This is because Mo Tianyan had a deep passion for mecha since childhood. His biggest dream was to become a combat mecha pilot, whose name resounded across the stars, so he studied mecha-related techniques tirelessly. Mo Tianyan had always envisioned his future. He dreamed that one day he would pilot a dashing mecha flying over crowded places, leaving the onlookers with envious glances and sounds of admiration. He dreamed that one day he would pilot an immensely powerful mecha annihilating the invading Zerg and become a peerless hero like the Empire's Grand Marshal Corey. Wasn't Mo Tianyan's mecha repair technique supposed to be excellent? If he could repair mecha for others, wouldn't he earn a lot? Then why could he hardly afford to eat? Actually, that was not the case. Imperial law stipulated that one must possess a professional certificate to engage in relevant industries. Anyone violating the law would face severe consequences, at least 10 years of imprisonment, and at most the death penalty. To obtain a professional certificate, one had to pass a vocational examination. For a high-end profession, like mecha repairer, one had to pay 1 star coins before taking the exam. Mo Tianyan was penniless. Where could he get so many star coins? Moreover, the difficulty of the mecha repairer exam was extremely high. Even one passer among 100 would be considered very lucky. Becoming a mecha repairer was extremely difficult. Not only did one need talent, but the learning process also consumed a great deal of money. The price of combat mecha parts used during repair training was already beyond what an ordinary family could afford. The exam fee was just a drop in the bucket compared to that sum. Now the 1 star coins needed for the exam could be raised by selling some of the items he obtained today. With his skill, Mo Tianyan should have no problem becoming a junior mecha repairer. Mo Tianyan had been living in this slum village for about 5 years. He remembered that when he first arrived here, he had no place to live. The so-called home was just a tin house he built bit by bit over these years. Such a tin house could not withstand storms or keep warm in winter. Now it was deep winter. Every night, Mo Tianyan huddled under his quilt shivering from cold. Especially when a blizzard struck. Although the tin house was heavy and Mo Tianyan had reinforced it so it wouldn't be blown away, he would surely shiver in his quilt all night without being able to sleep. Mo Tianyan unlocked the door gently, pushed it open, and returned to his familiar small home. This home was nothing but dilapidated and bare. Aside from the spatial toolbox left to him by Grandpa Zika, which he could not sell, almost everything else he had brought from his old home had been sold. The house now contained only a table, a stool, a bed, and a pot. No other furniture. Mo Tianyan opened the spatial toolbox and took out today's gains: a giant broadsword, a combat mecha core, a medium-grade energy crystal, a mecha part core, and a metal sphere. I've really hit the jackpot. These must be worth at least 2,000 star coins. The most valuable one is the combat mecha core, but it's damaged, worth about 1,000 star coins. An intact one would be over 1,000,000. The giant broadsword, medium-grade energy crystal, and mecha part core together are worth about 1,000 star coins, Mo Tianyan estimated. Mo Tianyan looked at the metal sphere and said with some confusion, "What is this thing? I've never even seen it in any book." Mo Tianyan had read all the books in the school library, yet none of them recorded this metal sphere. Forget it. He'll ignore it. It's probably just an ordinary metal ball. Mo Tianyan shook his head. This metal sphere isn't very big, just a bit larger than my fist. He'll just put it on the table. The table was rectangular. It was not empty. On it were a stack of books and a white diamond-shaped crystal. This white diamond-shaped crystal was a Zerg core. At night it emitted a faint white glow. Mo Tianyan looked at the crystal, and the longer he stared, the more his nose stung. When Grandpa Zika left, he handed this diamond-shaped crystal to Mo Tianyan and said, "This Zerg core was collected from the first Zerg I killed. I kept it as a souvenir. I hope to kill more Zerg in the future. Now I give it to you." After saying that, Grandpa Zika climbed into his mecha and soared into the sky. Since the bad news came, this crystal had become Mo Tianyan's spiritual connection to Grandpa Zika. "Grandpa Zika, I had a big gain today. I won't be hungry anymore. My mental level has reached perception. I can pilot a mecha now. That's the biggest harvest today. But I almost came to find you." As he spoke, Mo Tianyan wiped his eyes with his hand, sniffled, then tilted his head back, blinking and taking deep breaths. Over the years, Mo Tianyan had developed the habit of talking to this crystal as if speaking to Grandpa Zika. Every holiday, when he saw other families happily holding hands and going out to play, he felt very envious. When he was little, Mo Tianyan also felt envious when he heard children his age happily calling out to their parents. But over the years, he had long accepted the fact that he had no parents. Many years later, the pain of losing a loved one struck again, but this time, he also managed to bear it. Mo Tianyan vaguely remembered asking Grandpa Zika when he was very young, "Grandpa, where are my mom and dad? Why haven't they come to see us for so long? Have they abandoned us? They went to another planet to earn star coins. Grandpa Zika used the same excuse again. But they never sent us any star coins, did they, eh? Everything I eat, drink, and use comes from the money you earn repairing mecha, Grandpa. Grandpa Zika frowned, wanting to say something to comfort little Emotionion. Little Emotionion looked at Grandpa Zika and said cunningly what he had been thinking. Why don't I have parents? Why is my name different from yours? Actually, I was adopted by you, right? After saying this, little Emotionion stared at Grandpa Zika's face, hoping for an answer. Sure enough, Grandpa Zika's reply was exactly what little Emotionion had anticipated. Little Tianyun, you are much smarter than ordinary children. When they are as young as you, they can barely speak clearly. How could they be as clever as you? But it's good for a man to be smart. It allows him to live a more exciting life in this world, Grandpa Zika sighed. So it's really true. Then I should thank you even more, Grandpa. You gave me a warm home. Without you, I might have died long. After saying that, little Emotianyun hugged Grandpa Zika tightly. Zika didn't say anything, just gently patted little Emotianyun's back. The memory ended and time in reality continued to flow slowly. Emotionion gently placed the metal sphere beside the Zerg core. No sooner had he placed it than something unexpected happened, leaving him at a loss. A white ray of light appeared between the metal sphere and the Zerg core, growing brighter and brighter. The Zerg core turned transparent, then cracked, and finally shattered. My core! Emotionion rushed forward and grabbed a few fragments, his face full of shock. What is this metal sphere? It absorbed the white light inside the core. What Emotionion never expected happened next. The surface of the metal sphere emitted a white glow, and then a human figure appeared beside Emotionion. Emotionion was startled. When he shifted his gaze to the figure, he was completely stunned. Goddess! What met his eyes was a woman. A woman so beautiful that all the worldly adjectives like dreamlike, graceful, heavenly, stunning, and enchanting could not capture even a tenth of her beauty. Her beauty was beyond all words. It made one wonder if even the creator's painstaking effort could hardly bring such a being into existence. And her body matching her face was so perfect that even the universe's most powerful super AI could not calculate the perfect data for every detail. Yet such a body had been born and now appeared before Emotionion. Around her body was a halo of sacred pure white light, each strand composed of countless shimmering particles. Behind her were 10 pairs of holy white wings, forming a perfect set of angelic wings. The surface of the wings was covered with a layer of golden halo. However, the wings were not fully spread, they were partially closed and slightly opened. It made one imagine if the wings were fully spread, how holy and magnificent would they be. Lowering his gaze, passing over the perfect, fair, slender legs, he discovered that the woman's crystal-clear jade feet did not touch the ground. Her entire body was suspended in midair. So beautiful. Even Princess Ilia, known as the Empire's #1 beauty, would be like a firefly before the blazing sun, an insurmountable gap. Emotionion seemed to lose his soul, his eyes dazed as he exclaimed. At the same time, his heart pounded loudly and kept accelerating. The blood flow also quickened. Emotionion's body grew hot, and he gradually became flushed. The next moment, the woman's eyes slowly opened. Emotionion clearly saw the 2 deep blue eyes of this stunning woman, vast as the starry sky. As her eyes opened, the light in the room seemed to brighten. Within those eyes appeared to reside the myriad cosmos and stars, countless truths and principles of the Tao. The infinite mysteries of the world revolved within them, the centers of her eyes like black holes, drawing one in, impossible to escape. The woman's eyes fully opened and her consciousness awakened. She silently gazed at the man before her, and as she looked, her eyes suddenly widened, as if she realized something, and her face instantly flushed red. The blush even spread to her neck. In the next instant, her entire body was enveloped in a glow of white light. Gradually, as the light faded, the woman's figure reappeared. The woman's wings had vanished, and her body was no longer bare. She now wore a pale pink battle skirt with pink armor, covering her full figure etched with light blue star traces. Her hands were each sheathed in a white glove, her right hand grasping a slender blue double-edged sword. The blade shimmered with flowing light, and a cold gleam emanated from its tip. White stockings clung firmly to her long straight legs, and on her feet were a pair of pink technological combat boots. Each boot had a wind wing, looking quite cool. The next second, the sword in the woman's right hand dissolved into specks of starlight and disappeared. The woman then spoke. Who are you? Her voice was clear and melodious like the sound of celestial music. Emotionion snapped back to reality, pointing at the metal sphere. You ask who I am, but I should ask you the same. You popped out of that metal ball and even swallowed the Zerg core that Grandpa Zika left me as a memento. Metal sphere. The woman followed Emotionion's gaze, slowly turning her swan-like fair and elegant neck to look at the metal sphere. The moment she saw the metal sphere, she was stunned for a few seconds. I see, she murmured, then let out a bit. Well, that metal sphere you saw is called the miracle core, and I am a spiritual projection. You can call me the miracle. The woman continued, since you have activated the miracle core, you are its temporary master. Temporary master. Mo Tianyan tilted his head in confusion. Yes. Your task is to collect enough Zerg cores. In return, I will give you some points which you can exchange for advanced technology, explained the miracle spirit. Advanced technology? Mo Tianyan's interest was piqued. He quickly pressed on, Miracle spirit, can you show me what advanced technology there is? The miracle spirit waved her jade-like hand, and a virtual screen appeared in the air. The screen displayed 5 options: combat, mecha, gene, evolution, martial arts, war, weapons, life technology, and simulation space. Combat, mecha, war, weapons, and life technology contain blueprints and data. Gene evolution martial arts contains gene evolution formulas and martial combat techniques. In other words, you don't get physical items. They are just blueprints and formulas. After you exchange for them, you still need to find the materials and manufacture them yourself. Manufacture them myself? Mo Tianyan didn't dwell on it. He looked at the last option. What is this simulation space? What's its use? The simulation space is for you to practice simulations, replied the miracle spirit. You can simulate training in martial combat techniques, simulate real combat, simulate technological research, and so on. Everything in the universe can be simulated as long as your spiritual power is strong enough. The simulation space doesn't require points to use, it consumes your spiritual power. Spiritual power can be restored, so don't worry, the miracle spirit explained in detail. Mo Tianyan understood. Can I take a look at the combat mecha blueprints? He asked, voicing his most. Of course, the miracle spirit nodded with a smile. With Mo Tianyan's current spiritual power, he couldn't resist the lethal charm of that smile, and was stunned again. Seeing this, the miracle spirit withdrew her breathtaking smile. Do you want to see the mecha body or the mecha components? Her ethereal melodious voice drifted gently into Mo Tianyan's ears. The mecha body, Mo Tianyan said, snapping out of it. Here there are 1,000 blueprints for standard mechas, 100 blueprints for transcendent mechas, and 10 for epic mechas. The miracle spirit waved her hand, and the screen appeared before Mo Tianyan. Golden Wolf Mecha, Standard Mecha Maximum Combat Power Multiplier 6. Fire Leopard Mecha, Standard Mecha Maximum Combat Power Multiplier 7. Storm Mecha, Standard Mecha Maximum Combat Power Multiplier 8. Mo Tianyan noticed that the further he scrolled, the higher the combat power multiplier. So he jumped to the end. Purple Gold Mecha, Standard Mecha Maximum Combat Power Multiplier 10. Is 10 times the highest multiplier for standard mechas. Grandpa Zika's mecha had an 8x multiplier, Mo Tianyan questioned. The maximum combat power multiplier for standard mechas is 10 times. For transcendent mechas, the limit is 100 times. For epic mechas, the limit is 1,000 times. Any mecha that reaches its maximum combat power multiplier is called a perfect mecha, the miracle spirit. I see. After hearing this, Mo Tianyan quickly understood and directly flipped to the page for epic mecha blueprints. Dark Knight Mecha Epic Mecha Maximum Combat Power Multiplier 250. Meteor Mecha Epic Mecha Maximum Combat Power Multiplier 567. Iron Buddy Mecha Epic Mecha Maximum Combat Power Multiplier 666. Silver Moon Mecha Epic Mecha Maximum Combat Power Multiplier 789. Mo Tianyan's gaze swept down to the very bottom. Thousand Sword Mecha Epic Mecha Maximum Combat Power Multiplier 960. This mecha is the coolest and strongest. If only I could have a mecha like this. Mo Tianyan's eyes widened like brass bells when he saw the final mecha blueprint. But when he saw that the Thousand Sword mecha blueprint required 500 points to exchange, he quickly asked, excuse me. Miracle Spirit, what are points? Points are a currency, but they can only be used to exchange things from me. For instance, the Thousand Sword mecha blueprint you see costs 500 points, and you currently have only 1 point, the Miracle Spirit replied. That's strange. I just found this metal ball. How do I have 1 point? Mo Tianyan asked, puzzled. That Zerg core of yours was from an ordinary Zerg. Its energy was enough to activate the Miracle Core, and the value of an ordinary Zerg core is 1 point, the Miracle Spirit patiently answered. Ordinary Zerg core. Energy. Mo Tianyan thought carefully about the Miracle Spirit's words. From her answer, it seemed that anything containing energy could be exchanged for points. What about this? Mo Tianyan took out a medium-grade energy crystal. The Miracle Spirit glanced at it with her star-bright eyes. No. The energy level of this crystal is too low. The energy inside is impure, and there's too little of it. You would need at least 10,000 of these energy crystals to gain 1 point. The Miracle Spirit looked at Mo Tianyan again, her eyes narrowing slightly, as if she wanted to see him anxious. That many? Mo Tianyan's head drooped. He looked at the Thousand Sword mecha blueprint again, feeling a bit down. The next moment he adjusted his mindset, and then how can I earn enough points to exchange for the Thousand Sword mecha blueprint? Eliminate the Zerg, and let me absorb their cores, the Miracle Spirit said gravely. The Zerg core is the energy core of every Zerg, the source of their power, and also their absolute weakness. Every Zerg core contains energy of an equally high grade. The biggest difference between Zerg cores of different levels is the amount of energy they hold. Ordinary Zerg cores are pearly white, elite Zerg cores are emerald green. There are even higher levels that you will encounter later, the miracle spirit narrated unhurriedly. Eliminate the Zerg. I will. Because Grandpa Zika was killed by the Zerg on the front lines, Tianyun had long wanted to join the Imperial Army to avenge him. At the same time, joining the Imperial Army to accumulate military merits was the fastest path to power for a mecha pilot. The Empire's Grand Marshal Corps was such a legendary figure. However, considering that you activated the Miracle Corps, I will reward you with one blueprint. You can choose one from the blueprints you just saw. The Miracle Spirit said generously to Tianyun. Really? I want the 1,000-sword mecha blueprint. Tianyun exclaimed excitedly. It's unlocked. You can view the blueprint at any time, the Miracle Spirit told him. Thank you, Miracle Spirit, Tianyun said happily. Then Tianyun thought for a moment. Can I call you Sister Miracle? He felt it was strange to keep calling such a beautiful, seemingly unreal woman Miracle Spirit. At the same time, Tianyun had been a lonely person for a long time, always lacking the company of family, and subconsciously wanted to call the Miracle Spirit sister. The Miracle Spirit was also stunned for a moment, then she came back to her senses. Sure, call me whatever you like, she nodded indifferently. But don't think being chummy means you can get something for nothing. Points are points, don't even think about getting a freebie, the Miracle Spirit warned him squarely. Mum's Sister Miracle, I will work hard to become a mecha pilot, slay all the Zerg, and collect a lot of Zerg cores for you, Tianyun promised earnestly. An opportunity. Earning points was his only chance to rise. He would put aside the origin of this Miracle Spirit for now and investigate it later. For now, he would focus on earning points to become a powerful mecha pilot. Good, then I'll wait for your good news, the Miracle Spirit said with a radiant smile, seeing the boy's serious expression. The Miracle Spirit, seeing the young man's earnest demeanor, offered a graceful smile. Tianyun suddenly realized that this metal sphere named Miracle Core had appeared together with several other items. So he asked the Spirit of Miracle, did you collect these valuable objects? The Spirit of Miracle nodded gently and replied, these are the most valuable items from that place, considered as a gift for you. I knew it, Tianyun muttered, beginning to think that the Spirit of Miracle seemed rather nice. Sister Miracle, I want to view the detailed information of the 1,000-sword mecha blueprint. Tianyun added. All right, the Spirit of Miracle nodded. Then a virtual screen materialized before Tianyun. Tianyun quickly tapped to open it. He then prepared to admire the full appearance of the epic-level mecha, the 1,000-sword mecha. This. Tianyun was stunned. The structural diagram of the 1,000-sword mecha's core is so exquisite that even the core structure of the transcendent-level Heavenly Rain mecha I've seen before is not even 1% as good as this. Moreover, most of the materials used in this mecha are extremely rare, each one exceptionally costly, and some are required in large quantities. There are some materials I've never even seen before. I'm afraid even money can't get them. Tianyun exclaimed in astonishment, his mouth agape. The most outrageous is the core of the Earth. There's only one per planet. Where am I supposed to find this thing? Tianyun nearly went mad. He was currently a commoner. Some mecha manufacturing materials were so precious that even money couldn't buy them. Even if all these materials were laid before me, I couldn't do it, he said. My current skills are far from sufficient to manufacture this mecha core. Let alone the core, I don't even understand the power system, energy circuits, component cores, or energy shields. This epic mecha technology is too profound. Furthermore, Tianyun's mecha manufacturing skills were far below the minimum standard required to build the 1,000-sword mecha. Don't rush, you can learn mecha technology gradually. The Spirit of Miracle said with a faint smile. I just attempted to connect to this civilization's information network and obtained a vast amount of data. All the materials for the mecha I showed you can be found on this planet. So if you have enough star coins, you can obtain all the materials to build the mecha. Upon hearing this, Tianyun calmed down. Fortunately, he looked at the pile of books on the table beside him, among which was a thick stack of blueprints. Over the years, he had independently designed a blueprint for a standard combat mecha. That mecha was named Heavenly Cloud after his own name. Since the epic combat mecha couldn't be built in a short time, he would have to construct a standard combat mecha for now. Since he wanted to become a combat mecha pilot, he must first own his own mecha. But building a mecha required a large number of star coins. Then he'll earn money first and build the standard mecha. To earn money, I must first obtain a profession. In 2 months, he'll turn 16, so he'll go and qualify as a mecha repair technician. And then, Tianyun worked backward step by step to plan his route. In the highly advanced mecha civilization of the Karen Empire, mechas had long been applied in every aspect of life. Mechas are divided into domestic mechas, industrial mechas, and combat mechas. There are tens of thousands of mecha-related professions, but almost all of them are associated with domestic and industrial mechas. Among all mech-related professions, only those related to combat mechas are called mecha masters. Mecha masters are further divided into four major professions: combat mecha pilot, mecha manufacturer, mecha repair technician, and mecha part specialist. The names of these four professions make their roles obvious. Among them, the combat mecha pilot is the most expensive but also holds the highest status. Because combat mecha pilots are powerful enough to kill the Zerg and defend the Empire's territory, the Empire grants them the highest welfare and benefits among all professions. Furthermore, materials decomposed from Zerg corpses are essential for manufacturing advanced mechas, but the Zerg are powerful and difficult to kill, making these materials extremely expensive. Thus, while combat mecha pilots are the most expensive, they are also the fastest earners among all professions. Because they must go to the front lines to repel Zerg invasions, it is the most dangerous occupation. The mecha manufacturer is the profession that designs mecha blueprints and assembles mechas. This is the profession that understands mechas the most, involving the greatest amount of mecha knowledge, and it has the most professional levels. Junior, intermediate, advanced, special, expert, master, elder, chief. This is the promotion path for mecha. While combat mecha pilots follow a military rank promotion system, mecha part specialists and mecha repair technicians also follow this professional promotion path. However, the highest level these two professions can reach is master level. Mecha manufacturers are also called father of mechas. The more powerful a mecha is, the less replicable it becomes. Even with the same materials and the same person building it, there will always be differences. A combat mecha is piloted by a person. The more compatible this person is with the mecha, the more the mecha's maximum enhanced combat power can be exerted to its fullest. If a combat mecha pilot wishes to bring the mecha's maximum enhanced combat power to perfection, or even surpass its limit, then that person must also be the builder of that mecha. A mecha also has a soul, and its soul is the mecha core. The mecha core includes the mecha's cockpit. When a combat mecha pilot enters the cockpit and connects their spiritual power to the mecha core, the core then connects to all systems and component cores. At that moment, the pilot and mecha become as one. Therefore, a combat mecha pilot must at least have a spiritual rank of perception. However, the problem is that the mecha core is inscribed with spiritual power by a mecha manufacturer according to the blueprint. After the core is completed, residual spiritual power from the mecha manufacturer remains. Thus, when a combat mecha pilot operates the mecha, it is not perfectly attuned. If the mecha is built by the combat mecha pilot themselves, it would certainly be perfectly attuned. A mecha repair technician is the doctor of mechas. If a mecha component is damaged, a mecha repair technician can fix it. As long as the mecha core is not damaged, everything else can be repaired. Lastly, there is the mecha part specialist. A complete mecha consists of the mecha body and mecha accessories. The mecha manufacturer builds the mecha body, while the mecha parts specialist produces the accessories. A mecha's weapons belong to one category of accessories. The selection of accessories varies according to the different requirements of the mecha. Weapons for sustained combat, shields, and external armor are the three most common combat accessories. There are also functional accessories, such as large-scale detectors, high-energy weapon launchers, singles, or limited quantity, and so on. The function of combat accessories is generally to enhance strength, defense, and speed. Weapons are divided into cold weapons and hot weapons. Cold weapons are used in close combat. Especially when a powerful martial artist pilots a mecha, they become unstoppable. Hot weapons are used for long-range combat. These are all energy weapons with devastating destructive power. Some masters can defeat an opponent from tens or even hundreds of kilometers away. High-energy weapons are even more terrifying. A single shot can devastate an area of hundreds of kilometers. Legend has it that the strongest high-energy weapon can erase an entire star system with one shot, reducing its star to dust in an instant. Then I must learn all mecha professions. Tianyan rubbed his head with one hand while clenching the other fist and raising it above his head. Because I am the man who will become the strongest mecha master. Tianyan pushed open the iron door and stepped out of his house brimming with youthful vigor. Though it was winter and the ground was blanketed in white snow, this was a densely populated slum village after all. The sky outside was gray and murky, and the air reeked with a foul stench. The slum village, home to 50 of the East District's population, occupied nearly 20 of its land area. With nearly 4 million residents in the East District, half were slum dwellers. Rows upon rows of cramped shanties formed this sunless slum village. Every day, people died of starvation here, and countless murders and robberies went unheeded. Yet near Tianyan's home, such incidents were rare. When the young boy first arrived, local thugs had come demanding. Tianyan said coldly, "Scram." The thug snarled, "Don't think he'll spare you just because you're a kid. If you're asking for death, he'll grant it. Kill you first, then search your place." The thug drew a blade of vicious grin on his face. He relished the thought of Tianyan's desperate struggles before death. Though gaunt and sallow, the thug's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He had clearly killed before. That child is doomed. May he be reborn into a better family in his next life, free from suffering. Indeed, Several middle-aged women in patched, ragged clothes covered their eyes and turned away. Though they had witnessed such scenes many times, they still couldn't bear to watch. Helpless, they could only wait and later call the corpse collectors to drag the boy's body to the dumping ground. Just as these women expected Emotianyan to be killed, he acted. In one swift motion, he kicked the knife from the thug's hand, then delivered a second kick that sent him flying. The entire process took less than 2 seconds. When the women turned back, they saw the thug lying on the ground spitting blood. Later, the thug brought a gang to settle the score. A dozen thugs encircled the young boy. The neighbors could only watch helplessly as they prepared to attack the women who had witnessed the earlier incident shook their heads. The boy might defeat one man, but how could he defeat a whole gang? Besides, the gang leader wielded an energy gun. To their surprise, Emotianyan showed no fear. He first took down the armed thugs with bare hands, clean and efficient. The gang leader aimed his energy gun at Emotianyan and fired. The energy bolt left Emotianyan unscathed. He had anticipated the attack and activated an energy shield in advance. Finally, Emotianyan drew a laser sword and ended the gang leader with a single strike. After that, the local criminals learned that the young boy was not to be trifled with and no one dared trouble him again. Even those who ventured near his home had to tread carefully. The miracle spirit returned to the core, which could shrink in size. Emotianyan strung it on a cord and hung it around his neck. On the same cord was a small plaque. The plaque bore the character Emo. Grandpa Zika said it was found on him when he was discovered as an infant. Thus, he was named Emotianyan, Tianyan meaning clouds in the sky. Grandpa Zika hoped Emotianyan would be as free and unrestrained as the clouds following his heart. Emotianyan now planned to head into the city to sell the damaged battle mech core. Brother Tianyan, where are you going? I just saw you come home, and now you're leaving again. Didn't you find any valuable mech parts? It's getting dark. Come have dinner at my place tonight. As Emotianyan passed an alley, an 11 or 12-year-old boy ran out. No thanks, beer. I have business in the city. Emotianyan looked at the thin, dark-skinned boy. The city? Brother Tianyan, I want to go too. I've only been inside the city a few times in my whole life. Beer said excitedly. No, I have errands to run and can't take you. Emotianyan might have brought him along ordinarily, but today he was going to make a deal. He'll bring you back tasty snacks and fun things from the city, okay? I'm all right, but come back soon. Beer said dejectedly. Emotianyan headed toward the city. It wasn't far, about 10 kilometers, and he arrived quickly. Once inside, he made straight for a familiar place. The city air was fresh, the roads wide, and skyscrapers lined the streets. Hover cars filled the roads, and occasionally a mech flew across the sky. The trading market stretched endlessly, filled with a dazzling array of goods. Everything imaginable. If you could think of it, it was here, provided you had the money. A customer. Young man, what fine merchandise have you brought today? Emotianyan entered a shop, and the owner greeted him with a smile. Please take a look at this. Emotianyan opened his spatial toolbox and pulled out a huge object. The owner exclaimed and hurried over to inspect it closely. It's damaged, isn't it? He asked. Yes, Emotianyan nodded. 80,000 star coins the owner offered. I'm leaving. Emotianyan began to pack up the damaged core. Wait. 85,000, no, 90,000. 90,000 star coins deal. The owner hastily stopped him. If you do business like this, we'll part ways for good. Emotianyan shook his head and prepared to leave. 95,000 star coins, my final offer. Take it or leave it. The owner spread his hands. Shopkeeper, although this battle mech core is damaged, most of it is still in good condition. The materials alone are worth 100,000 star coins. Don't think I don't know that. Emotianyan sneered. The owner frowned at his words, then forced a smile that looked worse than crying. All right, young man, you're still as shrewd as ever, ha. 100,000 star coins, then the owner conceded. No need. Since you're so insincere, let's forget the 110,000. Young man, don't be hasty. I was wrong just now, all right. The owner was truly anxious now. 110,000 star coins. Acceptable. Emotianyan was satisfied. He handed the owner his star coin card. The owner took it with a stoic expression and worked at the counter for a while. 110,000 star coins have been credited to your card. Welcome back anytime. The owner returned the card to Emotianyan. Emotianyan pressed the card to confirm the amount, then responded. Star coins were the currency of the Aolong Empire. 1,000 star coins could sustain an average family for a month. In the slum village, 1,000 star coins could feed a family of several for half a year with basic necessities. Previously, Emotianyan's transactions here had been small, tens or hundreds of star coins, never exceeding 1,000. He was still somewhat displeased by the owner's earlier price haggling. As Emotianyan walked away, the owner activated his communicator. A kid just made a big transaction here. Find out where he lives. Yes. A voice answered from the other end. Welcome back. You'll never have the chance again. The owner let out a vicious sneer, his eyes fixed coldly on the spot where Emotianyan had vanished. Kinyan, I sense some materials you might need nearby. Go check if you can purchase them. Emotianyan suddenly paused as he walked along the road. The voice of the spirit of the divine relic rang directly in Mo Tianyan's mind. How do you know my name, Sister Divine Relic? Mo Tianyan asked, puzzled. Didn't that child call you Brother Tianyan? The spirit of the divine relic explained. All right, but my full name is Mo Tianyan. Mo Tianyan said. Stop with the nonsense. Now that you have star coins, aren't you going to buy the materials you need? The spirit of the divine relic's voice suddenly turned cold and indifferent. Oh, where are these materials? Mo Tianyan ceased his idle chatter. The third stall to your right. Mo Tianyan followed the spirit of the divine relic's instructions and walked over. Here is blue chrome iron. You need this to manufacture the core of a standard mecha. The spirit of the divine relic's clear voice rang in his mind again. It's that big piece of iron in front of you weighing 300 kilograms. Based on market prices, you can get it for at most 11000 star coins. The spirit of the divine relic provided the detailed information on the material. Hello, how much is this piece? 140 star coins, the stall owner said, seeing that the customer was a young man. He decided to raise the price first to test the youth's knowledge. 7000. Young man, you're cutting the price too harshly. That won't do, at least 12000. The stall owner quickly shook his head. 8500. Are you selling it or not? If not, forget it. Mo Tianyan stared straight into his eye. The stall owner hesitated. The purchase price of this blue chrome iron was 7500 star coins, but it was mostly used in combat mecha manufacturing, so it had never been sold. Mecha manufacturers were important figures in the city. They all had their own supply channels for mecha manufacturing materials. Why would they come here to buy his blue chrome iron? Moreover, with a recent cash flow problem, selling this blue chrome iron would certainly ease much of the financial pressure. The stall owner's gaze wavered. This blue chrome iron of yours looks to be about 300 kilograms, so 100 star coins is the market price. You wouldn't be losing out at that price. And the quality of this blue chrome iron is only average at most 9000 star coins. They'll give you 8700 star coins. If you want sell, I'll have to check other stalls. Mo Tianyan didn't want to waste words and called him out directly. Young man, you have sharp eyes for your age. He'll go with your price. The stall owner really didn't want to let this customer go. The next spot is the fourth stall ahead. After the transaction was completed, the spirit of the divine relic's voice sounded again. It's the powder in that transparent box. This powder is called rune powder, used for engraving the spiritual connection circuits of a combat mecha's core. The powder in this box is just enough, and the price is 3600 star coins. The spirit of the divine relic provided the detailed information once more. That expensive? Mo Tianyan was a bit stunned. Stall owner, I want this rune powder. Hearing the young man specifically ask for the rune powder, the stall owner gave him a careful once-over. This rune powder was a material for engraving the spiritual connection circuits of a combat mecha's core. Could this young man be a mecha manufacturer? Impossible. How could there be such a young mecha manufacturer? He must be buying it for practice, or his family asked him to. Many thoughts flashed through the stall owner's mind in an instant. Welcome, young friend. How much are you prepared to offer for this rune powder? The stall owner greeted him with a smile. 26000. Mo Tianyan said. Young man, you must be joking. The stall owner chuckled awkwardly. The two then haggled back and forth. Mo Tianyan used his silver tongue and finally closed the deal at 31550 star coins. The two transactions cost Mo Tianyan nearly half of his money, and this was merely a part of the materials for manufacturing the core. Manufacturing an entire mecha might cost millions of star coins. If he were to buy a finished mecha directly, it would cost at least 3 million or more. Hanzhan Advanced Bookstore. This was another destination for Mo Tianyan in the city. Hanzhan Advanced Bookstore was one of the few places in Hanzhan City that sold books on advanced knowledge. However, the prices of books here were exorbitantly high. A single book could cost at least 1,000 star coins, with expensive ones reaching tens of thousands. So-called advanced knowledge referred to knowledge of high-end professions like mecha masters, gene evolution pharmacists, and gene evolution martial artists. The stack of books on Mo Tianyan's home desk were some books about mecha masters. Those few books were rare mecha materials, science mecha repair technology, advanced mecha repair, mecha manufacturing, blueprint design, introduction to mecha core, and mecha component design and assembly. These were the precious treasures left to Mo Tianyan by Grandpa Zika. The last 3 books on mecha manufacturing were gifts from Grandpa Zika on Mo Tianyan's birthday. Over the past few years, through studying these books, Mo Tianyan had designed a blueprint for a standard mecha. The blueprint was tucked inside the book Mecha Manufacturing Blueprint Design on the desk at home. As long as he had enough materials, he could manufacture it at any time. The Thousand Swords mecha was an epic mecha. Mo Tianyan was not yet capable of manufacturing it. The decoration inside the bookstore was extremely luxurious. Each bookshelf was made of high-grade alloy adorned with exquisitely carved patterns. On the side walls of the bookstore hung some valuable art paintings and expensive ornaments. Sparkling gems were suspended from the ceiling. Everything looked so magnificent and splendid. Only the wealthy and noble could afford to buy books here. How could the decoration be anything less? Hello, sir. I am a guide here. How may I assist you? At that moment, a tall woman in uniform approached with Mo Tianyan quickly snapped back to reality. Although the guide could tell from Mo Tianyan's attire and his demeanor upon entering that he wasn't from a wealthy family. But out of excellent professional ethics, she would not neglect any customer. I need some advanced books on mecha manufacturing, as well as some books on combat mecha masters and mecha part specialists. Mo Tianyan slowly stated his needs. The woman had served many customers, but this was the first time she heard a customer ask for so many different types of books. Because the people who came here to buy books were all high-end professionals or those studying some high-end profession. From his words, could he already be a mecha manufacturer? Now he wanted to learn advanced mecha manufacturing knowledge. But why did he also need other types of books? Though curious, the woman thought about it for a moment and then let it go as it wasn't her concern. Sir, please follow me. The guide nodded slightly to Mo Tianyan. Second floor. The bookshelves here hold the mecha manufacturing books. The ones here are the more advanced mecha manufacturing books. The guide gestured toward a tall bookshelf. Mo Tianyan responded politely. This book, Complete Compendium of Advanced Mecha Manufacturing Techniques, is the best-selling book among the advanced mecha manufacturing category. The guide took down a large, thick book from the shelf. Mo Tianyan took one look. Good heavens, it must have over 1,000 pages. This book was authored 100 years ago by the Empire's chief mecha manufacturer Adrian Kamen. I heard that Chief Kamen was already a veteran mecha manufacturer at that time. The guide introduced the book in detail. Sir, you've come at the right time. This is the last copy left. The next shipment might not arrive for a month. Will take it. Only one left. I want it. Before Mo Tianyan could finish, a clear, elegant young girl's voice caught the attention of both Mo Tianyan and the guide. The newcomer was a young girl wearing the uniform of Han City's senior high school. Despite her young age, her figure was well-developed with a budding chest, a slender waist, and a pair of long legs sheathed in black stockings embroidered with golden patterns. Coupled with the girl's delicate features and long black hair reaching her waist, she was surely the kind of girl who would be considered a school beauty. Mo Tianyan glanced over. Welcome, esteemed Miss Vina. The guide gave a slight bow to the girl. The guide naturally recognized this young lady. Because her father was a respected senior mecha manufacturer, and she often came to the bookstore to buy books on mecha. The girl responded politely. I want this book. Esteemed Miss Vina, this gentleman was about to purchase this book first. Would you like to discuss it with him? The guide asked in a low voice. Upon hearing this, Vina turned her head, her hair flying, tracing up. She sized up the young man beside her. This young man was quite handsome. Yes, Mo Tianyan's appearance was very handsome and striking. He had deep eyes, chiseled features, and a tall, lean figure, leaving a deep impression. However, he looked familiar. She felt she had seen him before. But judging by this young man's attire, he didn't seem to be from a wealthy family. He appeared to be about her age. She was the most talented mecha manufacturer in Han City, and with her father's guidance, she had barely reached the level of a junior mecha manufacturer. What use would he have for this book? Was he also studying advanced mecha manufacturing knowledge? Thinking to herself, Vina smiled and politely asked, Hello, could you let me have this book? Sorry, I need this book urgently. Mo Tianyan shook his head. Really? Can you actually use the mecha manufacturing knowledge in this book? Vina didn't believe that any of her peers in all of Han City could surpass her in the field of mecha manufacturing. If I couldn't use it, why would I buy it? Mo Tianyan said with a faint smile. If you have that level of skill, why didn't I see you at last year's city-hosted Genius Mecha Manufacturer Conference? If you were that skilled, the championship last year wouldn't have fallen to me. Vina looked at this young man she thought was boasting. The champion of the Genius Mecha Manufacturer Conference. I just didn't want to participate. Mo Tianyan replied calmly. In truth, Mo Tianyan really didn't want to participate in the Genius Mecha Manufacturer Conference because it required a registration fee of 30 star coins, which he couldn't afford. But for the nobles it was different. In the eyes of wealthy nobles, 30 star coins was hardly any money. Moreover, the conference had many renowned mecha manufacturing masters offering guidance. Even a little bit of advice received would be worth far more than 30 star coins. Such big talk. Then I'll give you a chance. Vina was somewhat angered by Mo Tianyan's arrogant words. Her honor would never allow anyone to defile it. Weina retrieved a piece of paper from her spatial bracelet upon which was drawn a model of a mech and intricate structural lines. It was evidently a mech blueprint. This is the mech blueprint I designed. Father said there are some errors in my mech design, including even a fatal. If you can find them, I will. I will. Weina pondered for a moment. I will buy this book for you, and they'll even pay for all the books you want to buy today. Mo Tianyan fell silent upon hearing this. Give me the blueprint. He extended his hand. Weina promptly handed the blueprint over. Mo Tianyan took the blueprint and studied it with intense concentration. So engrossed. Could it be that you're awestruck by my meticulously designed blueprint? Wayna remarked upon seeing how seriously he was examining it. It seems your father was trying not to discourage you, which is why he spoke so lightly. In my view, this blueprint of yours is riddled with flaws. Emotianyan began pointing at various parts of this core design is the most unsuccessful. The spiritual connection lines that should link to the mech's components are left disconnected, while a jumble of unnecessary parts are linked. This slows down your entire mech's reaction time, which is the most fatal weakness in battle. The expression on Wayna's face stiffened. The power system still uses those antique relics from a century ago. Upon hearing this, Wayna looked utterly incredulous. The energy circuits are too simplistic. How much energy can these few lines deliver? I'm genuinely curious if your mech once built could even achieve a triple boost in combat power. As Wayna listened to Emotianyan enumerate each flaw, her heart began to ache. And here. Is this what a champion of the Genius Mech Designer Conference produces? The design is inferior to what I created 5 years ago. Emotianyan calmly stuffed the blueprint back into Wayna's hands. Wayna stood frozen motionless. Am I really that terrible? Wayna's face turned ashen. Who is this person? He can articulate all the errors my father pointed out, and it seems he's even more detailed. Wayna recalled her father's critique of the blueprint and realized that this youth who appeared to be around her age had provided a more thorough analysis than her own father. Excuse me, I still need some books on mech accessory design. Emotianyan turned to the nearby sales assistant. The assistant snapped back to reality and said, "Oh yes, sir. This way." Whatever thoughts occupied the assistant's mind, her movements were no longer as nimble. Emotianyan then selected 2 books. One was the Complete Guide to Mech Accessory Design and Manufacturing. The other was Advanced Mech Melee Weapon Design. Adding Compendium of Advanced Mech Manufacturing Techniques, Emotianyan had a total of 3 books. Check out, please. Emotianyan said to the assistant. Certainly, sir. Please come this way to settle the bill. The assistant led Emotianyan to a counter. That will be 12500 star coins. The cashier handed Emotianyan a receipt. Emotianyan noted the hefty price. Compendium of Advanced Mech Manufacturing Techniques cost 6500 star coins. The Complete Guide to Mech Accessory Design and Manufacturing cost 3500 star coins. Advanced Mech Melee Weapon Design cost 2500 star coins. Just as Emotianyan was about to pay, Wayna appeared. I admit my mech manufacturing skills are inferior to yours. I keep my word. He'll pay for these books. Emotianyan glanced at her, indifferent to her words, and promptly paid. What are you doing? I said I'd pay. Wayna exclaimed in agitation. I, Emotianyan, do not accept charity from others. A true genius never boasts of their prowess, for they know they are not the most formidable. Emotianyan possessed his own pride. In the nearly 5 years since he arrived in the impoverished village, he had never accepted help from others, even during his toughest times. The neighbors often called him over for meals. Because Emotianyan had been a deterrent to the local thugs, all these years they sought to repay his kindness. Yet he had never once eaten at anyone's home. Emotianyan took the bag containing the books he had just purchased, then walked straight out the door without looking back. Within the core of the divine relic, the spirit of the divine relic witnessed this scene and revealed a breathtaking smile, so radiant it could dim the countless stars in the sky. Yet no one was there to appreciate this unparalleled beauty. Wayna was left standing in the bookstore, lost in thought. Emotianyan. A flicker of recognition crossed her mind. Emotianyan. Wayna finally remembered. I've actually encountered the legendary omnipotent genius, Emotianyan. So he hasn't been crushed by adversity, instead he has honed his brilliance into subtlety. Wayna stared blankly at the receding figure. I wonder how those arrogant fools would react if they knew. Wayna suddenly recalled the lackluster geniuses from her school days who had always been overshadowed by Emotianyan. Though Emotianyan no longer attended school, his legend still persisted within its halls. The sky had fully darkened. The moon that night was exceptionally round and bright, with countless stars twinkling in the heavens. Emotianyan had just visited the market, buying ample food and 100 gene of high-grade beast meat, spending 100 star coins. He also ate and drank his fill, his first hearty meal in days. He purchased some low-grade energy crystals to fully recharge his energy shield. He bought some tasty snacks for Bill. As Emotianyan entered the impoverished village, the voice of the spirit of the divine relic echoed in his mind. Emotianyan, someone is following you. It's the shopkeeper you traded the damaged mech core with earlier. Emotianyan paused briefly, then resumed his walking pace. Be careful. This man is stronger than you, having reached the rank of initial martial artist. The spirit of the divine relic warned him. It seems I drove too hard a bargain on the price today, Emotianyan mused. Moreover, I appear too young, making me an easy target. Emotianyan thought to himself. But the fact that his opponent had reached the initial martial artist level made things difficult. Emotianyan stepped into a dark alley. Simultaneously, he drew a laser sword, though he didn't activate its energy. A man in black followed him stealthily. Just as the man in black entered the dark alley, a swish sound accompanied a blade of light aimed to strike him. But the man in black reacted swiftly. He dodged the blow intended for his head, though the laser sword left a long bloody gash on the man in black. Then it thrust back. The man in black leaped backward to evade the strike. But he was severely wounded. Damn brat daring to ambush me. The man in black drew his own laser sword. He prepared to kill. They clashed again, and after several exchanges neither could gain the upper hand. You blocked it, huh, kid? Looks like I'll have to show my true skill. The man in black hadn't expected Mo Tianyun, despite his youth, to be such a formidable opponent. Gripping his laser sword tightly, he charged at Mo Tianyun once more. Mo Tianyun's hands went numb. Such immense strength. I can't afford a direct confrontation. The opponent's advantage lies in their brute strength, while mine is my superior swordsmanship, coupled with my spiritual power having reached the perception level. Thus a direct confrontation was impossible. He had to use softness to overcome hardness. Seeing the opponent charge straight at him, Mo Tianyun suddenly changed his sword technique. The laser sword in his hand became light and swift, at times flickering like stars, leaving the opponent unable to defend. At other times it flowed like moonlight, continuous and gentle, strike after strike, each more formidable than the last. The opponent's sword moves were repeatedly blocked or deflected by Mo Tianyun. The black-clothed man grew increasingly anxious, for he had strength, but could not exert it, and his strikes could not land on Mo Tianyun. Mo Tianyun's powerful spiritual perception allowed him to always anticipate the opponent's moves. How could the other possibly hit him? The black-clothed man knew the consequences of continuing like this were unimaginable. He kept retreating, holding his sword in one hand, while quickly producing a vial of potion with the other. This potion could temporarily enhance his speed and strength, but its drawback was that it would not last long and would permanently damage his genes. Overuse would cause genetic collapse and immediate death. Without hesitation, the black-clothed man shoved it into his mouth and gulped it down. The next moment, the black-clothed man's muscles bulged his body, growing larger. Forbidden drug. Mo Tianyun immediately became wary upon seeing the change. The black-clothed man gave Mo Tianyun no time to react, gripping the laser sword with his thick, powerful hand and slashing at Mo Tianyun. Mo Tianyun could only defend with all his might. However, the force of that strike was overwhelming. Mo Tianyun was sent flying instantly. The black-clothed man was already far stronger than Mo Tianyun, and now his power was further enhanced. How could Mo Tianyun withstand it? As Mo Tianyun flew backward through the air, he suddenly noticed a bright moon and a sky full of stars in the night. The moonlight and starlight intermingled, as if becoming one. Gradually drawn in, countless scenes of past sword practice interwove with innumerable sword moves overlapping. In that instant, Mo Tianyun felt the sword in his hand change. Mo Tianyun executed a backflip in midair and landed steadily on the ground. The black-clothed man could not understand. After being sent flying by his full-powered blow, how could he still stand firm? He'll kill you. The black-clothed man roared in fury. He had thought it would be an easy catch, never expecting such tenacious resistance. The other party was clearly not a martial artist, far weaker than himself, yet like an indestructible cockroach, a creature of extreme resilience. The black-clothed man swung his sword again, even gripping it with both hands and putting all his strength into it. Seeing this, Mo Tianyun did not block Hedon. Instead, he kept dodging. While evading, he employed even more exquisite sword techniques, repeatedly entangling the opponent's blade to prevent him from mustering more power. As long as the opponent's drug effect wore off, he would be harmless. Mo Tianyun's swordsmanship grew increasingly adept, his moves flowed like water, and his attack speed accelerated. At this moment, Mo Tianyun's sword techniques seemed to have reached a certain bottleneck. This swordsmanship was called the Star Moon Sword Art. This martial art technique was taught to Mo Tianyun by Grandpa Zika. Mo Tianyun had practiced it for over 7 years. During the battle with the black-clothed man, Mo Tianyun's swordsmanship unfolded like a painting. If someone viewed this painting from above, they would see a bright circle and countless twinkling dots. Was this not exactly like the moon and stars in the night sky? Finally, the black-clothed man could no longer hold out. In a flash, Mo Tianyun seized the opening. Stars and moon shined together. Mo Tianyun shouted, his laser sword faster than lightning, instantly piercing the black-clothed man's body. Kill me, and you won't escape. Brother Tian will avenge me. You won't get away, you want. Finally, the black-clothed man slowly collapsed. Fortunately, my sword art broke through to the imagery realm, otherwise I'd be in big trouble. But the trouble probably isn't over yet. Next I might have to leave this place, otherwise they'll come looking for me. If 2 more come, or someone stronger, I won't be able to handle it. Mo Tianyun recalled the black-clothed man's last words. I need to finish building the mecha quickly. Otherwise next time will be dangerous. Mo Tianyun silently gazed at the black-clothed man on the ground. Then he swept his gaze around. The nearby residents had long heard the commotion of the battle. One by one they stuck their heads out of windows to watch this thrilling scene. Although the residents here were accustomed to killings happening, this was different. But this time they were truly shocked. They had never seen such powerful people fight. The sound of laser swords clashing was like thunder, deafening and awe-inspiring. They saw that the victor was actually a young boy. Could it be the same boy who had been the talk of the slums a few years ago? In the slums, killing was a trivial matter, hardly even noteworthy. As long as one didn't kill or destroy property in the city district violating imperial law, the military would not intervene. Because this planet, URU*, was one of the closest to the front lines with imperial troops stationed year-round. Thus the imperial army was the authority here. Once they took action, no one could survive. Mo Tianyun paid no further attention to the residents. Instead, he searched the man's body. It was indeed that shop owner. Mo Tianyun pulled off the mask and took a look. There should be quite a few good items on him. Mo Tianyun began to frisk the shop owner's corpse. Space bracelet, a good catch. Take it. Star coin card with 114514 star coins inside. No wonder he was so eager to kill me. Today I had taken half of his wealth. Mo Tianyun thought to himself. Then he found nothing else. He'll take this laser sword too. Even if useless, I can sell it for a good price. Mo Tianyun finally took the opponent's laser sword. Then he immediately left the place. Soon Mo Tianyun was near his home. Beer. Mo Tianyun passed by Beer's door. Brother Tianyun, why are you back so late? Beer dashed out upon hearing Mo Tianyun's voice. I said I went out on business. Here, a gift for you. Mo Tianyun took out the snacks he had prepared earlier. Thank you, Brother Tianyun. You're so kind, Beer said excitedly. When I grow up, I'll be as strong as Brother Tianyun. I'll work hard to earn money and give Mom, Dad, and Brother Tianyun a good life. Little Beer looked at Mo Tianyun seriously. Then you must study well and learn skills. Mo Tianyun patted Beer on the head. In the dead of night, someone turned on a communicator and dialed a number. Hey Charlie, what's the matter contacting me? On the communicator appeared a figure with an upper body, a hologram. Brother Tion Kalair was killed. Who killed him? Was it inside the city? A burly bald man demanded loudly. No, it's like this. The man answering didn't dare to breathe loudly, stammering and trembling as he told what he knew. Impossible. I know Kalair's strength. A mere boy couldn't possibly have the power to kill him. Even Rode Hubbard, hailed as the #1 martial arts prodigy at Hansan City High School, only recently became a beginner-level martial artist. A lowly servant from a slum village, still a boy. How could he kill Kalair? He'll give you one more chance. Don't try to deceive me. The burly bald man shook his head in disbelief. Brother Tion, it's true. I'm not lying. If you don't believe me, look at his information. The man promptly sent a message. He could take on 10 opponents 5 years ago. The bald man was slightly surprised. If you hadn't killed Kalair, I might have considered making you my subordinate. The burly bald man revealed a cruel, ferocious expression. After reading the information, he believed Chalice's words. Now he would have to personally handle the matter. Day broke. In the early morning, Mo Tianyun had already completed a 20-kilometer run. Now he was practicing the Star Moon sword art. As each move unfolded, the surrounding air vibrated with resonant sounds. After finishing the set, Mo Tianyun sheathed his laser sword. After last night's battle, my Star Moon sword art has reached the imagery realm that Grandpa Zika spoke of. Grandpa Zika said he never improved beyond the minor accomplishment realm. That means I have surpassed Grandpa Zika by 2 realms in the Star Moon sword art. 3 years ago, Mo Tianyun's Star Moon sword art had already broken through to the grand accomplishment realm, completely surpassing Grandpa Zika. Now he had reached a realm that even Grandpa Zika could not have imagined. This was the reason Mo Tianyun could defeat the black-clothed shopkeeper last night. His realm of martial technique was simply too high. Mo Tianyun was extremely excited. The realms of martial techniques from low to high are mastery, proficiency, minor accomplishment, grand accomplishment, imagery, and perfection. However, it is said that there exist even higher realms which can only be attained by martial techniques that transcend the mortal level. Although Mo Tianyun was very excited now, the next moment a bucket of cold water was poured over him, quenching his enthusiasm. What's so great about reaching the imagery realm with such a mortal-level martial art? The miracle spirit appeared beside him. Seeing this incredibly beautiful woman, Mo Tianyun was still captivated. Sister Miracle, why are you out? Mo Tianyun worried about being discovered. He could not protect the miracle core now. Don't worry, only you can see me. Even the strongest being in this civilization cannot detect me. Your martial technique is only at the mortal level. Isn't reaching imagery quite simple? Simple, Mo Tianyun said, embarrassed. Grandpa Zika took decades just to reach minor accomplishment, and it gets harder as you go. Sister Miracle says the imagery realm is simple. Is it really worth getting so excited? Right now, becoming a primary level gene evolutionary martial artist and building a mecha are the most important things, the miracle spirit reminded Mo Tianyun. Alright, I'll start learning mecha knowledge and refine the mecha design drawings right away. Mo Tianyun nodded and said Mo Tianyun's mecha design drawings were already completed. Now he needed to study some advanced mecha manufacturing knowledge to perfect the design. He left. Mo Tianyun gathered all the things he needed to take. He took one last look at the tin-roofed house where he had lived for nearly 5 years, then pulled the door shut and locked it. He was finally leaving this place. Passing by Bill's home, Tianyan saw Bill sitting at his desk reading a book with intense concentration. Tianyan clearly saw that the book in Bill's hands was one he had given him. When Tianyan first arrived at the slum village, Bill was only 6 years old. Bill had grown up without a mother. His father went into the city every day to work as a laborer for day wages, leaving no time to care for him. Thus little Bill learned to take care of himself from a very young age. His greatest wish was to grow up quickly, because as a child Bill had seen his father toiling under the scorching sun hauling enormous loads of cargo. Those loads were far larger than his father's tall frame. Much larger. Bill had even seen his father slip and fall with that massive cargo crushing him. He watched his father struggle to breathe, yet no one around was willing to lend a hand. Bill gripped the iron fence tightly with his thin, small hands, desperately wishing he had wings so he could fly in and move the cargo off his father. But little Bill forgot that even if he had wings, he wouldn't be strong enough. Suddenly, Bill saw a well-dressed man approach his father. The man pulled the cargo off Bill's father. He was here to help. Bill thought gratefully. The next second, Bill witnessed a scene he would never forget. The man began to punch and kick Bill's father. Bill was powerless, able only to weep. Later, when Tianyan came to the slum village, Bill also saw him drive away the bullies. From then on, Bill looked up to Tianyan as a role model. He followed Tianyan every day. Gradually, Tianyan accepted this little follower. Tianyan acknowledged Bill as his little follower because of Bill's earnest and ambitious heart. Bill, Tianyan called out, "Brother Tianyan." Bill put down his book and ran over. "Bill, I'm leaving this place." Tianyan said. Bill was stunned. He had no mental preparation at all. How could Brother Tianyan come and say he was leaving right away? Here are 5000 star coins. Tianyan took out a star coin card. He had prepared this long ago because the only person he worried about leaving behind was Bill. Bill's company over the years had kept Tianyan from being utterly alone. "That's too much. I can't take it." "Brother Tianyan, take it back." Bill pushed the card away. "Brother Tianyan, I can't accept your money. I know your own life isn't easy. I also know you haven't had a full meal in days." Bill was very aware of Tianyan's situation. "Keep it or I've struck it rich." Tianyan smiled and pressed the card into Bill's hand. "No, I don't want it." Bill frowned, his voice right. "Brother Tianyan, haven't you always told me that a true man relies on his own efforts? Haven't you always refused? I know all the neighbors are grateful for you, including me. Because you are here, no one has dared to come collect protection fees these past years. Otherwise our lives would be even harder." Bill began to cry as he spoke, partly because he was deeply grateful to Brother Tianyan, and partly because he couldn't bear to see Brother Tianyan leave. Tianyan's eyes grew moist. "What nonsense. I told you to take it, so take it." Tianyan hardened his heart, determined to make Bill accept the money. Being a man means being strong and courageous, not inflexible. "This money is for you to go to school." "What do you think it's for?" Tianyan shouted at Bill. "If I had been able to keep studying all these years, I would have accomplished far more." Tianyan knew that without money one could not move an inch. He simply wanted Bill to receive an education so he could change his fate of poverty. "Don't you want a chance to study? Don't you want to grow up to be an upright man? Don't you want a better life for your father?" Tianyan asked Bill loudly. "If you do, then take this money and go to school properly. Become the best, and don't let me down." Tianyan grabbed Bill's shoulders and spoke to him solemnly. "I'm leaving. If you don't take the money, just throw it away." He released Bill's shoulders and walked toward the city. "Brother Tianyan, goodbye. You must come back to see me. I will remember your kindness. I won't let you down. I will become a man of indomitable spirit." Bill clutched the star coin card tightly and shouted at Tianyan's retreating figure. Tianyan paused for a moment, then without looking back quickened his pace and moved far away. The next time Bill heard news of Tianyan's name had already spread to every planet in the empire. "Tiangu, that kid has entered the city." "What? He entered the city? That's troublesome now. What do we do, Tiangu?" "Keep watching him. I don't believe he'll never leave the city." Tianyan found a hotel in the city and settled in. Then the divine miracle spirit appeared. You can learn mecha knowledge and martial combat techniques in the simulation space. It has remarkable effects, the divine miracle spirit suggested. How do I use the simulation space?" Tianyan asked. "Connect your spiritual power to the divine miracle core, and you can enter the simulation space. You can also use your spiritual power to view blueprints, formulas, and so on." The divine miracle spirit replied. "But you must be in a safe state when connecting your spiritual power to the divine miracle core, or your body will be defenseless." The divine miracle spirit cautioned Tianyan. "Unless your spiritual power reaches the next level, the spirit see it added." Tianyan focused his spiritual power and slowly connected to the divine miracle core. Where is this? He felt as if he had entered an unfamiliar space. In this space, countless intricate patterns overlapped, layer upon layer, slowly flowing. It exuded an ancient, mysterious aura as if it had existed for eons. 6 doors stood here. 5 large doors were in front, and behind them was one even larger door. The 5 doors ahead are for battle mechas, genetic evolution, martial arts, war weapons, life technology, and the simulation space. The door on the far right is the simulation door. Enter it, and you will know how to use it. The phantom-like figure of the divine miracle spirit appeared beside Tianyun. And what is that massive door at the back for? Mo Tianyun asked, gazing at the giant door. I cannot enter it now either. I don't know what lies within. Perhaps one day you will be able to open it. The divine miracle spirit also looked hopefully at that great door. Can't you enter either, divine trace sister? Mo Tianyun asked in disbelief. The spirit of divine trace said no more. Then I'll enter the simulation space. Mo Tianyun approached the door on the far right and gently pushed it open. Inside the door was a dark spatial vortex. Go on in. The spirit of divine trace signaled. Then Mo Tianyun and the spirit of divine trace entered the spatial vortex together. This is the simulation space. Here you can simulate everything in the universe. As long as your mental strength is powerful enough, you could even simulate an entire universe. But that's just a theory, because no one in this universe has such formidable mental strength. The spirit of divine trace began to introduce the simulation space. Look here. The spirit of divine trace waved a hand. A mecha over 100 meters tall appeared before them. The Thousand Swords mecha. Mo Tianyun walked over, wanting to touch this powerful and handsome mecha he had long dreamed of. However, Mo Tianyun's hand passed right through it. He couldn't touch the mecha. Your mental strength isn't sufficient to simulate an epic mecha yet, so you can't touch it. Watch closely. The mecha combat scene is coming. The spirit of divine trace slowly flew into the mecha's cockpit. Thousand Swords mecha activate. The spirit of divine trace connected with the Thousand Swords mecha using its mental strength. The energy circuits in the mecha's core lit up. Then all the energy circuits of the Thousand Swords mecha were linked. The colossal mecha slowly ascended into the air. The spirit of divine trace piloted the mecha, soaring freely through the space. Suddenly, a gigantic insect over 10 times the size of the Thousand Swords mecha appeared in the distance. Given that the Thousand Swords mecha itself was 100 meters tall, one could only imagine the insect's enormity. The giant insect was covered in a thick shell and had a pair of wings on its back. It had 8 legs, each one larger than the Thousand Swords mecha and glinting with a terrifying sharp cold light. Its head was covered in countless densely packed dark red colossal eyes. If one looked closely at each eye, they would find it composed of innumerable compound eyes. If Mo Tianyun had trypophobia, he would surely have been scared out of his wits by now. The giant insect also had 2 horns atop its head. Between the horns flowed a green electric-like glow, which was likely the insect's long-range attack weapon. This insect was a member of the Zerg race. It was Mo Tianyun's first time seeing a Zerg. It was completely different from what he had imagined. Just its sheer size alone was beyond his wildest expectations. But what happened next deeply shocked Mo Tianyun even more. The Thousand Swords mecha showed no sign of evading. Instead, it accelerated and charged forward. One by one, alloy greatswords materialized from the void surrounding the Thousand Swords mecha. They then converged above the mecha, forming a single colossal alloy greatsword. At that moment, the Thousand Swords mecha raised its hands high above its head and firmly grasped the colossal alloy greatsword. Divine Domain Thousand Swords Slash. The spirit of divine trace executed a martial combat technique using the Thousand Swords mecha. As soon as this martial combat technique was unleashed, the Thousand Swords mecha became the center of a field where brilliant, colorful phantom star rivers emerged all around. These phantom star rivers constantly shifted and changed, forming a profoundly mysterious star domain. This star domain also enveloped the giant insect. A ray of sword light that seemed to pierce the heavens illuminated the entire space. The giant insect was reduced to countless fragments within the sword light, falling through the space before dissipating. The spirit of divine trace piloted the Thousand Swords mecha back to Mo Tianyun. Mo Tianyun stared fixedly at the Thousand Swords mecha. At that moment, Mo Tianyun felt as if his soul and heart were crying out in unison, I must build the Thousand Swords mecha as quickly as possible, I must. The Thousand Swords mecha dissolved into a sky full of starlight, and the spirit of divine trace materialized gracefully. This is what a mecha battle looks like, the spirit of divine trace said to Mo Tianyun. The simulation space can be used to practice combat skills and also to build mechas. Even though it's virtual, it's exactly the same as reality. The spirit of divine trace continued. Especially for building mechas, you can practice countless times in the simulation space until you perfect the mecha's construction. This way, the mecha you build in reality can achieve the maximum combat power multiplier. Such a mecha would be It also saves a tremendous amount of practice materials. Practice is indispensable for building a mecha unless it's a low-grade one. The spirit of divine trace patiently explained to Mo Tianyun. After hearing this, Mo Tianyun understood just how immensely helpful the simulation space was to him. Building a mecha was extremely expensive. Once a failure occurred, some materials were wasted. With the simulation space, he could save a lot of money. Furthermore, some rare materials were often only available for a single use. If the attempt failed, the mecha would be lost. That was about more than just saving money. Also, the spirit of divine Trace's voice sounded again. I've set up 10 trial levels. If you pass the 3rd level, you'll unlock the high-grade mechas that come after the epic ones along with other blueprints and formulas of the same tier. Then you can exchange them using points. What is inside the trial levels? Onion asked. Didn't you just see for yourself? The spirit of divine Trace chuckled softly. Onion's heartbeat quickened. Sister Divine Trace, you are so beautiful. Onion recalled the moment he first saw the spirit of divine Trace. Oh, is your sister really that beautiful? The spirit of divine Trace teased Onion. Mum's sister Divine Trace is the most beautiful. Onion gradually lost his composure. Then you'll have to collect more Zerg crystals for your sister, okay? Will work hard. Onion nodded repeatedly. Then why aren't you off learning the knowledge of mecha construction? The spirit of divine Trace suddenly put on a stern face. And so Onion gradually began to spend his time in the simulation space, simultaneously learning all the professional knowledge of a mecha engineer and practicing piloting standard mechas to kill ordinary Zerg. 1 month later, Onion had reached an intermediate level in all his mecha engineer professional knowledge. Furthermore, he could now release the martial technique Star Moon swordsmanship while piloting a mecha. Ordinary Zerg were no longer a match for Onion. The design of this mecha has reached the perfection of a standard mecha. If it can be built perfectly, this mecha's maximum combat power multiplier will reach 10 times. This is the first mecha I've designed, so I'll name it after myself. Call it the Onion mecha. Onion muttered to himself, holding a blueprint. He'll be turning 16 in another month. It's time to start preparing properly. In 1 month, Onion would come of age. The Empire's legal age of adulthood was 16. By then, he would be eligible to take all the professional examinations. Now he needed to go purchase materials for building a standard combat mecha, as well as the biological ingredients for making gene evolution potions. Yes, Onion had used 1 point, his only point, to exchange for a basic gene evolution potion formula. With the formula, there was no need to learn the professional knowledge of an apothecary. As long as he had the materials, he could make the potion. This was because an apothecary was a profession focused on collecting biological materials, analyzing biological properties, and researching gene evolution formulas. This profession held a status equal to that of a mecha engineer, and its highest professional rank could also reach chief. The initial genetic evolution potion formulated from the recipe Onion had exchanged was far superior to any ordinary beginner-grade genetic evolution potion available on the market. Moreover, it was devoid of any side effects. A common beginner-grade genetic evolution potion on the market could enhance strength by 300 kilograms. Priced at 100 star coins per bottle, it also came with severe restrictions such as a limited number of doses with diminishing efficacy after repeated consumption. Yet the potion produced from Onion's recipe for the beginner-grade genetic purification potion alone could boost strength by up to 1 ton. What was most terrifying was the absence of side effects. It could be consumed continuously until one's strength reached 100 tons, the limit for a latest-stage beginner warrior. To further increase strength, one would need intermediate-grade genetic evolution potions. However, using such potions required a spiritual power at the perception level to withstand the force of genetic evolution. Thus, most beginner warriors could not attain the perception level of spiritual power. Onion had only broken through after comprehending his own warrior's heart. Although this potion could be taken continuously, it had to be done gradually, allowing the body to adapt to the current strength, or one had to possess strong spiritual power to continue consuming it. If one's strength had not reached 100 tons, the limit of a latest-stage beginner warrior, taking an intermediate-grade genetic evolution potion would lead to genetic collapse and death. However, some genetically robust individuals or creatures managed to survive, transforming into mutated. The golden wolf beast and its leader that Onion encountered in the mech graveyard were likely creatures that had become mutated beasts after consuming failed genetic evolution potions. Onion stepped out of the inn. The hotel staff cast peculiar glances at him, for he had not left his room for an entire month, and this was his first time exiting the building. Onion paid no heed to such stares. He took a deep breath of the fresh outdoor air, stretched lazily, and felt utterly at ease. The air in the urban district was indeed fresher than that of the impoverished village. The population density in the urban district was far lower than that of the commoner village, and with the addition of advanced air purification systems, it had to be said that life in the urban district was far too comfortable. The winter sun was also quite warm. There was only 1 month left of winter this year, and the coming spring was not far off. However, before the warm spring arrived, the final month of winter would typically bring an exceedingly severe blizzard. Surviving it meant the arrival of spring, failing to do so would turn one into fertilizer for others' growth. From the black-clad shopkeeper who had attempted to assassinate him that night, Tianyun had acquired a considerable number of star coins and a spatial bracelet. Inside the bracelet were the damaged combat mech core that Tianyun had traded with the shopkeeper along with a large amount of mech materials. With his current level of mech manufacturing skill, he could repair the damaged combat mech core. There were also quite a few materials inside. By purchasing the missing ones he could build a mech. Though ordinary combat mech materials were expensive, they were relatively easy to find in the vast mech materials market. Tianyun's most important goal in coming out this time was to find a very rare material called deep-sea fire crystal, a crystalline formation found only at volcanic vents thousands of meters deep in the ocean. Only under such extreme conditions of high temperature and pressure could deep-sea fire crystal form. Tianyun needed this material to create the energy circuit conduits for the mech core. Only this material could perfectly withstand the energy output pressure of an ordinary combat mech, with a maximum combat power multiplier of 10. Then by re-engraving the spiritual connection circuits of the mech core, using spiritual power, he could upgrade and transform the original core. The upgraded core would elevate the mech's maximum combat power multiplier to its most perfect level. As expected, after searching the entire mech materials market, Tianyun could not find deep-sea fire crystal. He had only managed to purchase all the ordinary combat mech materials. Most merchants had never even heard of deep-sea fire crystal. The remaining few who had heard of it either had no channels to acquire it due to its rarity or found it too expensive to stock. Some merchants did not stock it because it was costly and difficult to sell. In short, Tianyun lacked only deep-sea fire crystal to build his mech. Just as Tianyun was at his wits' end, the voice of the divine mark spirit echoed in his mind. Tianyun, I have located the deep-sea fire crystal. Really? Where? Tianyun was overjoyed. Yes, the location is. Following the coordinates given by the divine mark spirit, Tianyun soon arrived at a hidden shop. The shop's entrance bore no decorations, and the ground was spotlessly clean, likely because few people. Curiously, the shop had no signage whatsoever, looking like an ordinary house. Moreover, the interior was invisible from outside. Since he had come this far, Tianyun decided to take a look regardless. He knocked on the door. Come in. An elderly man's hoarse voice came from within. Without further hesitation, Tianyun pushed the door open and entered. Indeed, it's a white-haired old man inside, he muttered to himself. Since you're here, you must know the rules of this place. The old man's next words left Tianyun a bit. What rules? Tianyun braced himself to respond. You come here and don't even know the rules. The old man's expression darkened. Senior, please don't be angry. I am here only for the deep-sea fire crystal, Tianyun hastily stated. Odd. You know that I deal in rare materials, yet you don't know my rules. The old man seemed puzzled. Since you're here for rare materials, are you a mech engineer? The old man asked again. Sort of. Tianyun gave an ambiguous answer. What do you mean, sort of? Are you or aren't you? The old man grew impatient. Yes, I am a mech engineer. Tianyun realized he had misspoken. Very well. I see you're so young, it's hard to believe you're a mech engineer. Since you have the courage to come here, they'll give you a chance, the old man said, giving Tianyun a look. If you can design a mech blueprint with a maximum combat power multiplier of 5 within today, I will give you the rare material you need. The old man knew it was challenging to design a combat mech blueprint within a single day, and he had specifically demanded a blueprint with a maximum combat power multiplier of 5. This undoubtedly made the task even more difficult. Moreover, Tianyun was too young. He couldn't possibly design such a blueprint. Even the young girl who had won the Genius Mech Engineer competition last year was far from reaching that level. The old man was well aware of the skill level of mech engineers of that age in Hansan City, as he had presided over the Genius Mech Engineer competition the previous year. A blueprint for a standard combat mecha with a maximum power enhancement multiplier of 5. Tianyun confirmed the old man's words. Ha, what do you think, it's too difficult? Give up. In these decades, fewer than 20 people have passed my trial. The old man chuckled heartily. It's not too difficult. It's too easy. Tianyun replied with a smile. In the past month, he had thoroughly mastered the tome, Compendium of Advanced Mecha Manufacturing Techniques. Through incessant blueprint design and mecha construction within the simulation space, the foundational knowledge he had amassed surpassed the lifetime accumulation of an ordinary mecha fabricator. Tianyun was now capable of designing transcendent mecha blueprints, let alone standard ones. Thus, for him, designing a standard combat mecha blueprint was as simple as raising a hand. Tianyun retrieved a blank sheet from his spatial bracelet. This was no ordinary paper, it was crystalline elemental paper, a premium medium that could be inscribed upon using spiritual energy. The images within this paper could project holographically, rendering the mecha he designed in 3 dimensions. The books he purchased at the premium bookstore in Hansan City were not ordinary either. They were holographic recording tomes. The exorbitant cost of these books was not solely due to the advanced professional knowledge they contained. Another crucial reason was the wealth of holographic imagery recorded within. Upon opening a book, the learner felt as though a true master was instructing them on unknown. This was precisely why Emotianyun had mastered advanced mecha manufacturing knowledge in a single month. After connecting his spiritual sense to the crystalline paper, Emotianyun began his design. Simple. Little lad, don't boast. I have designed mecha blueprints for decades. Even I need half a day to craft a standard combat mecha blueprint with a maximum power enhancement multiplier of 5. Seeing Emotianyun's flippant claim, the old man chuckled. Old sir, just watch closely. Emotianyun replied with confident laughter. Then with intense focus, Emotianyun began designing on the crystalline paper. First the core structure. The old man nodded slightly as a core prototype appeared on the paper. The core structure is the most challenging part. Completing this step brings one close to finalizing the entire mecha. However, enhancing the maximum power multiplier still depends on the overall design. The old man muttered to himself. After speaking, he scrutinized Emotianyun's blueprint. Thized. He was startled by what he saw. Emotianyun's core was nearly finished. How much time had passed? He had merely been distracted for a few seconds. This young man. He's given this old man quite a fright. Is he trying to hasten my demise? Look at this speed. I've spent most of my life designing mechas, yet am slower than a teenager. Have I wasted these decades in vain? Emotianyun's speed in designing the mecha core left the old man astounded. The core is done. Next are the mecha components. Emotianyun stated nonchalantly. Done. Already done. The old man's eyes bulged in disbelief. In truth, Emotianyun had completed this mecha blueprint long ago. Through repeated construction within the simulation space, he had memorized the blueprint by heart. After a short, "All right, senior, my blueprint is complete." Emotianyun rubbed his temples. The design process was mentally taxing. The old man, still reeling from the shock of Emotianyun's speed, had yet to recover. Seeing the senior motionless, Emotianyun tapped his shoulder. "Senior, the blueprint is ready." "Oh, good. Good." The old man nodded repeatedly. Let me see. With trembling hands, he took the blueprint from Emotianyun. Huff, huff. The old man took 2 deep breaths to calm his stunned mind. Good, excellent. This standard combat mecha blueprint yields a maximum power enhancement multiplier of at least 6. If crafted perfectly, it could even reach a multiplier of 8. After a long examination, the senior had an excellent eye. He immediately discerned that the maximum power enhancement multiplier of this standard combat mecha blueprint was 8. Emotianyun mused inwardly. You have passed my trial. You know the rules. The blueprint is mine, and you take the materials free of charge. However, given the superior value of your blueprint, I can offer you an additional material. The old man nodded at Emotianyun. All right, I want deep sea fire crystal. Emotianyun announced joyfully. His very first mecha was about to be born. As for the second material, Emotianyun was uncertain. Got it. After a moment's thought, an idea struck him. I also want the Earth's core. He recalled the materials for the Thousand Swords mecha. The most precious material for the Thousand Swords mecha was the Earth's core. What? The old man's eyes widened again. You want the Earth's core? Are you joking? Everything here combined isn't worth a single Earth's core. So you don't have it. Emotianyun said sheepishly. The Earth's core was the rarest material for crafting epic mechas. Emotianyun knew it wouldn't be here, but he had to ask, what if by some chance it was? Though the standard mecha blueprint wasn't valuable enough, he could trade it for a transcendent mecha blueprint, or something even more precious. Isn't that obvious? This item exists only within the Imperial Legion, nowhere else. Earth's core is used for crafting epic mechas. Oh, what do you need it for? The old man asked, puzzled. I intend to craft an epic mecha in the future. I'm just collecting materials now, Emotianyun explained. Hearing Emotianyun's words, the old man fell into contemplation. In his youth, wasn't he equally the epic mecha was his lifelong pursuit. Yet after decades of toil, he never became a grandmaster mecha fabricator, nor designed an epic mecha blueprint. You have ambition, young man. When I was young, I also dreamed of crafting epic mechas, but now my hair is white, and I still haven't designed an epic mecha blueprint. The old man said with deep emotion. Haha, enough said. Choose something I can afford, and don't frighten me. The old man was at a loss for words. From the senior, Emotianyun learned that the Earth's core was obtainable from the Imperial Army, a significant gain. Then he'll take a spatial orb. A spatial orb was a space deck device capable of storing mechas. It contained a vast interior space to accommodate a mecha. The higher the grade of the spatial orb, the larger the interior space. The same applied to mechas. This is acceptable, not too valuable. The old man said as he produced a spatial orb. This spatial orb can even house a transcendent mecha. It's yours. Senior, these 2 items are too precious. If there's anything I can help with, please don't hesitate to ask. Emotianyun felt his blueprint's value didn't match the senior's generosity. Go on. Since you've passed my trial, giving you these items is according to my rules. Don't dwell on it. On the contrary, meeting a talented young man like you and being able to lend a hand, helping others achieve their dreams brings me joy. Don't overthink it. You can't help me now. All right, off you go. The old man waved his hand. Mo Tianyun, having received the 2 items, wanted to express his gratitude, but the old man dismissed him first. The old man gently closed the door, returned to his chair, and sighed with deep emotion. Truly a talented. I hope he realizes his mecha dream. Epic mecha. Mo Tianyun recalled the old man's words. Since that's the case, these might be of some help. Mo Tianyun took out some ordinary draft paper from his spatial bracelet, quietly placed it before the old man's door, and pressed it down with a pebble he retrieved from a nearby flower pot. Now all the materials are gathered. I can build the Tianyun mecha. I can't wait to pilot it and engage in a grand battle. Mo Tianyun left the senior's place. Throughout the journey, he could barely contain his excitement. The next step was to build a mecha. To build a mecha, returning to the inn was certainly out of the question. Building a mecha in the inn was inconvenient. Not to mention whether the space was sufficient. Even if the mecha were completed, the inn's building materials could hardly withstand its pressure. Furthermore, constructing a mecha required numerous tools and a large mechanical workbench for assembly. Such equipment could only be found in a large-scale mechanical manufacturing factory or a combat mecha manufacturing center. Mo Tianyun silently contemplated how to build the mecha. The large-scale mechanical manufacturing factory is generally off-limits to ordinary people. It produces only civilian mechas and transport vessels like shuttles. Then I have no choice but to go to the combat mecha manufacturing center. Mo Tianyun walked to the aerial platform and boarded the loop train. In about half a minute, Mo Tianyun traversed the entire eastern district and arrived at the central district of Hansan City. The central district was far more bustling than the eastern district, serving as the political and economic hub of Hansan City. Although it was the dead of winter in Hansan City, the central district showed no signs of cold, and not a single snowflake was visible in the sky. Arriving here, the climate felt pleasantly warm like spring. This was because the weather system had been altered. At the pinnacle of the tallest skyscraper was a city temperature controller. This city temperature controller regulated the surrounding climate, keeping the temperature in the central district constant. This skyscraper was called Hansan Tower. Around it stood 4 slightly shorter buildings. Standing at the main entrance of Hansan Tower, the Combat Mecha Manufacturing Center was on the left. On the right was the Career Center. Ahead was the Gene Evolution Warrior Center. Behind was the Hansan Commercial Center. These 4 major centers were also surrounded by other buildings. The entire central district with Hansan Tower at its core presented a scene of stars clustering around them. People came and went from all directions. Intelligent service robots were visible everywhere, along with countless mechanical facilities and towering skyscrapers, all constituting the immensely prosperous central district. Mo Tianyun walked directly toward the Combat Mecha Manufacturing Center. On the way, aside from the mechanical greetings from intelligent service robots, as he passed, everyone else regarded him with unfamiliarity. Soon Mo Tianyun arrived at the Combat Mecha Manufacturing Center. He noticed that those entering and exiting were either dressed in luxurious, imposing attire or impeccably elegant and graceful. In contrast, Mo Tianyun's ordinary clothing seemed strikingly out of place. Unconcerned, he strode straight toward the main entrance, preparing to enter. Hey, you there, stop. You can't go in. Just as Mo Tianyun was about to enter, a stern, yet slightly flippant male voice rang out loudly. The voice reached the ears of everyone nearby, including Mo Tianyun, instantly drawing the attention of all present. Mo Tianyun turned to look. The speaker was a security guard clad in a mechanical combat suit, holding a long energy rifle. Please show me your Imperial Identity Card. The Imperial Identity Card was a form of identification for the Empire's citizens, divided into multiple grades. Ordinary people could obtain an Imperial Identity Card at age 16 for 1,000 star coins. However, this was a standard identity card, the lowest grade. With an identity card, one became a true citizen of the Empire, entitled to enjoy various Imperial policies, such as applying to join the Imperial Army or becoming a professional of various kinds. Imperial identity cards were graded. The higher the grade, the greater the privileges within the Empire. Holders of high-grade identity cards had the authority to grant lower-grade cards to others, a privilege limited to those with high-grade cards or above. It wasn't necessary to wait until age 16 to obtain an identity card, as high-grade cards could authorize issuance. Thus, some fortunate individuals possessed identity cards from birth. In truth, only those holding high-grade identity cards or above were the Empire's true citizens. They alone were fully protected by Imperial law, for if they were killed, the Empire would pursue the matter to the end. I don't have one. Mo Tianyun shrugged in response. Then I'm sorry, you can't enter. The guard immediately blocked Mo Tianyun's way. The security guard sneered inwardly. As a guard here, while his primary duty was security, he couldn't just let anyone in. If something happened, those with identity cards could be traced. More importantly, he couldn't allow paupers without identity cards to offend the eyes of the nobles. He had seen enough people to tell at a glance who had an identity card and who didn't. Though this youth had an air of distinction, his clothes were far too ordinary, utterly unlike someone of status. A single question confirmed it. Someone without even an identity card couldn't possibly have any background. Then why don't those people need to show their cards? Emotionian glanced at the people coming and going. Don't worry about them. If you don't have one, you can't enter. Those around witnessed the scene, but no one paid it any mind. Some even sneered, and a few pointed fingers, and Emotionian gave the guard a deep look. It was clear the man was determined to target him. This stirred a hint of anxiety, but there was nothing he could do. Causing trouble here would cost him his life, no matter how many he had. It seemed this modest attire wasn't suitable for every occasion. Emotionian mused silently. It appeared he would have to find another way to build the mecha. Emotionian felt the urge to retreat. Before leaving, he cast one last glance at the guard. A snob. The guard returned his gaze with cold indifference. Emotionian decided to linger no longer and turned to leave. Emotionian, what are you doing here? A crisp, melodious female voice once again drew everyone's attention. Emotionian followed the voice. The speaker was a girl about his age. Upon closer inspection, she wore a gorgeous black dress and exquisite black high heels. Her delicate face, long black hair cascading down her back, and stunning figure were breathtakingly beautiful. You are. Emotionian thought for a moment. You're Vina. He finally remembered. Wasn't this the haughty girl he had encountered at the Hanshan City Advanced Bookstore, wearing the uniform of Hanshan? She was also the champion of last year's Genius Mecha Engineer competition. So you do remember me. Hearing Emotionian's words, the girl smiled gently. Vina's father was the vice president of the Hanshan City Combat Mecha Manufacturing Association. Vina often came here to learn mecha building, so this place felt like home to her. Vina walked gracefully toward Emotionian, her long slender legs carrying her forward. Her beautiful figure and elegant demeanor captivated the attention of everyone present. Emotionian glanced at Vina, but quickly averted his gaze. After all, he saw his perfect, dreamlike sister Mirage every day. This had significantly raised his tolerance for beauty. Greetings, Miss Vina. The guard saluted Vina, his right hand lightly clenched into a fist near his chest. Vina walked over to Emotionian, ignoring the guard's salute entirely. You still haven't answered my question, she said, her eyes crinkling with a smile. I'm here to build a mecha. Oh. Vina's interest was piqued upon hearing this. You're going to build a mecha? Can I watch you build it? Perhaps I might even pick up some tips on mecha construction. Vina spoke with a charming smile. The guard felt a chill run down his spine. Who was this young man? Miss Vina wanted to learn mecha construction from him. Miss Vina was the foremost genius mecha engineer in all of Hanshan City. The guard sensed trouble and silently worried. That might not be possible. I don't have an Empire ID card, and this guard stopped me. Emotionian shook his head, looking helplessly at the guard. Vina's expression turned cold as she fixed her gaze on the guard. I've been learning to build mechas here since I was a child. Since when did anyone need to show an ID card to enter? Thighs. The guard's voice faltered. Seeing the guard's reaction, Emotionian realized the man had deliberately been making things difficult for him. Do you understand the consequences of your actions? Vina demanded, her face stern and voice icy when the guard failed to answer. The guard's face flushed red, his words stammering, and his body trembling as if caught in a painful dilemma. The onlookers began whispering among themselves. This guard has bitten off more than he can chew. That young man must have some influence. Look how close he is with the vice chairman's daughter. I could tell from the start that this young man was extraordinary. Exactly, with his starry eyes and sword-like brows, his upright posture. Clearly no ordinary person. Moments ago, those same people had been pointing at Emotionian and mocking him. Now they were singing his praises. This shift was nothing but their sycophantic flattery toward Vina. Though they had heard Vina say she wanted to learn mecha construction from Emotionian, none of them took it seriously. What mattered more to them was Vina and her father behind her. Vina's father was a senior combat mecha engineer, holding a high status in Hanshan City. What did a senior combat mecha engineer mean? It meant he could build transcendent-class combat mechas. This also meant many transcendent-class mecha pilots were on good terms with him. An ordinary combat mecha pilot was already someone many looked up to. So what about numerous transcendent-class mecha pilots? A single transcendent-class mecha pilot could destroy a city. Without an epic-class mecha pilot to oppose them, they were nearly invincible. However, there were likely no more than 3 epic-class mecha pilots on the entire planet Uluru. Hanshan City itself had no epic-class mecha pilot stationed there. All they knew was that the largest military base on the planet had a single epic-class mecha pilot permanently stationed in the command center. This epic-class mecha pilot's mission was to guard Uluru, an imperial colony ever ready to repel Zerg invasions, alien incursions, space pirate raids, and eliminate any other threats to the planet's safety. Miss Vina, I was blind. I apologize to your friend. The guard bowed deeply to Emotionian. Young master, please be magnanimous. I beg for your forgiveness. Mo Tianyan looked at the guard feeling no pity, only finding him utterly ridiculous. He had initially thought he would have to leave in disgrace alone. Mo Tianyan hadn't expected Vina to appear and stand up for him. Mo Tianyan found it strange. Last time at the Hantan City high-end bookstore, he had embarrassed Vina. Why was she helping him now instead of taking the opportunity to humiliate him and save face? In truth, Mo Tianyan's words had prompted Vina to reflect deeply. After winning the Hantan City Genius Mecha Engineer competition, she had become arrogant about her talent. Later, Mo Tianyan's words filled her with shame. After some introspection, Vina set aside her pride and humbly devoted herself to learning mecha construction. Unexpectedly, her progress had been remarkable, even astounding her father. So Vina didn't feel Mo Tianyan had insulted her. Instead, she was deeply grateful. She never imagined she would run into Mo Tianyan, whom she had been so thankful for all these days at the Mecha Construction Center. Seeing him, she was overjoyed and a little nervous. Seeing that Mo Tianyan hadn't accepted the guard's apology, Vina spoke up. That's enough. You're transferred to the warehouse as a keeper. At Vina's words, the guard's face turned pale. The warehouse keeper position had far worse working conditions and pay than his current job. Understood. The guard slunk away. Vina had the authority to reassign a lowly guard. She would just mention it to her father later. He wouldn't bother with such trivial matters. Mo Tianyan, aren't you going to build a mecha? Come on. Vina entered the small space teleportation platform and waved at him when she saw he hadn't followed. Mo Tianyan agreed as the young woman beckoned him. Since he was already here, it would be a waste of time. Once Mo Tianyan stepped onto the platform, Vina began operating the controls. In an instant, a flash of light enveloped them and they vanished. Welcome to the Mecha Construction Center. This is Workstation No. 3. A mechanical voice echoed in Mo Tianyan's ears. We're here. This workstation is the best one aside from the chairman's and my father's. I usually try building my mechas here. Vina led Mo Tianyan to the workstation she frequently used. Vina led Mo Tianyan to the intelligent identification door where a faint beam of light scanned her, followed by a mechanical voice. Scan successful. Vina advanced access granted. The door slid open silently, and Vina stepped inside with natural grace. Mo Tianyan followed behind, his gaze wandering curiously across the mecha assembly workstation. Within lay a vast mecha manufacturing space filled with an array of colossal mechanical tools. What first caught Mo Tianyan's eye was the enormous mechanical workbench at the center. The massive workbench towered nearly 20 times Mo Tianyan's height. Standing at 1.78 meters, he estimated the workbench to be at least 30 to 40 meters tall. Every floor of this combat mecha manufacturing center was at least 50 meters high. This was, after all, a combat mecha production hub. Even an ordinary mecha stood over 10 meters tall, and far more advanced models were crafted here. How could the building be anything less than monumental? The entire complex spanned over a square kilometer, rising 15 kilometers into the sky. This third mecha assembly station was situated near the very top. No wonder they had to use a small spatial transport platform to ascend. Hantan Tower soared 20 kilometers high, allowing the city's climate controller at its peak to regulate temperatures across the entire central district. This is the first time I've seen such a massive mechanical workbench in reality, Mo Tianyan mused silently. The colossal workbench was essential for securing and assembling mechas. Without it, constructing combat mechas would be impossible. Beside the workbench sat a control panel used to operate the assembly process. Mo Tianyan then turned his attention to the second largest mechanical tool in the workshop. This tool, shaped like a sphere, stood over 10 meters tall. That's the alloy forging furnace, he thought to himself. Next, he glanced at a small room off to the side. Relative to the entire workshop, it was indeed modest, but to Mo Tianyan it seemed immense. Though called a small room, it spanned hundreds of square meters with a ceiling 10 meters high. This must be the Precision Mechanical Component Processing Station. That's a material processing and assembly robotic station. That's a large-scale mechanical power system manufacturing unit. An energy intensity tester. And they even have a spare parts fabrication station. Mo Tianyan took in each site one by one. I never expected such a complete set of tools here, including a spare parts workbench. If I had to rely on a large-scale mechanical factory, completing a mecha would be far more challenging and time. Mo Tianyan began to feel grateful to Vina for bringing him here. According to her, this workstation was the finest for mecha assembly, second only to those of the guild's president and her father. No wonder the tools were so comprehensive. He realized he owed Vina a significant debt. If I get the chance, I'll offer her some guidance. He couldn't help but think. These were all large-scale mecha manufacturing tools he was seeing for the first time in reality, though he had used most of them extensively in simulations with great proficiency. Alright, this is the mecha assembly workstation. You can start preparing to build your combat mecha, Vina said, gazing at the familiar setup. Thank you, Miss Vina. Mo Tianyan expressed his gratitude. For some reason, hearing him address her so formally made Vina slightly displeased. Mo Tianyan, just call me Vina, she said with a gentle smile, trying to correct him. All right, Miss Vina. Onion nodded. Oomph. Vina frowned and turned her head away in mild irritation. Onion was puzzled by her reaction. Nevertheless, he remained silent and began retrieving a stack of blueprints made from crystal paper from his space. The blueprints were densely packed with mecha design information, mechanical drawings, text numbers, and symbols all intertwined in a complex web. Onion, could I take a look at these blueprints? Just a glance. It won't interfere with your work. Onion handed the blueprints to Vina. Blueprints were the lifeblood of any mecha designer, rarely shared with others. After a moment's thought, he decided to let her see them. First, Vina had indeed done him a great favor. Second, a mecha master like her wouldn't covet his ordinary combat mecha designs. Third, even if she took them, he could recreate the designs from memory. Vina extended her soft, delicate hands and gently accepted the blueprints from him. Onion began pulling out all the materials from his spatial bracelet, preparing to start the mecha construction. He slowly unloaded a variety of components. Gradually, the materials piled up into a small mountain. Good thing this spatial bracelet is spacious enough, or I couldn't have fit all this. He shook his head, recalling that he had spent nearly 200 star coins on all these materials. Some items he already owned, like the damaged mecha core giant sword and mecha component core. There was also a deep-sea fire crystal gifted by an elder. Among them, the damaged ordinary mecha core was the most valuable. A good one cost over 1,000,000 star coins, while the other materials were less precious. Next was the deep-sea fire crystal from the elder, a rare item worth about 200 star coins if Onion. These blueprints are incredibly complex. Even my father's ordinary combat mecha designs aren't this intricate. Vina couldn't decipher Onion's blueprints at all. Is that so? He replied with a confident smile. The ordinary combat mecha he designed was of a perfect grade. Theoretically, the mecha he built could achieve a maximum combat power amplification factor of 10. However, to reach this theoretical peak of tenfold enhancement, every component had to meet quality standards, each part manufactured to perfection, and the compatibility between parts had to be flawless. Such a mecha was known as a perfect mecha. The higher the mecha's grade, the more difficult it became to achieve perfection. For advanced mechas, attaining perfection for each part was nearly impossible, and achieving perfect compatibility between them was even more daunting, a feat as challenging as reaching the heavens. Yet creating a perfect mecha was still possible, provided one had sufficient wealth and time. Because mecha parts could be replaced, swapping out incompatible components until the entire machine achieved perfection. That was the essence of a perfect mecha. If Onion succeeded in building such a mecha, it would be a perfect grade, ordinary combat mecha. Yes, indeed. I can somewhat understand the blueprints for the standard combat mechas my father designed. But every detail of your blueprints is so intricate and profound that I rack my brains trying to fathom their Vina nodded, then put on a troubled expression toward Onion. She hoped he would notice her perplexity and explain the principles behind the blueprint's design. This is a perfect grade standard combat mecha blueprint. Onion replied with just that one sentence, then resumed his preparations for mecha manufacturing. That faint remark instantly dispelled Vina's little schemes. Perfect grade. Wait, I think I've seen this term. Hearing Onion's words, Vina seemed to recall something. Forget it, I'll just look it up. She gave up thinking and hastily pulled out a small intelligent terminal to start a search. A line of text appeared on the terminal's holographic screen. Perfect grade, when the maximum combat power amplification factor of a manufactured mecha of a certain level reaches the theoretical maximum for that level. For example, if the theoretical maximum combat power amplification factor for a standard combat mecha is 10.0 and a particular standard combat mecha achieves that factor, then it is a perfect grade standard combat mecha. This is incredible. After reading, Vina stared wide-eyed at the mecha blueprint in her hands. So this is the perfect grade mecha my father mentioned. Vina recalled that she had first heard the term from her father. Even my father finds it difficult to design such a blueprint. She glanced at Onion again, feeling that he had become much more brilliant in her eyes. So this is the omnipotent genius. Compared to him, I'm far behind. Vina murmured softly, gazing at Onion's back. Miss Vina, give me the blueprint. Onion had finished preparing the materials and was now ready to start building them. Oh. Vina stopped overthinking and handed the blueprint back to Onion. This guy, I told him not to call me Miss Vina. Vina muttered to herself incessantly. First, build the mecha core. That's the hardest part. If it fails, there's no subsequent manufacturing process. Carrying the blueprint, the damaged standard combat mecha core pattern powder blue chromium iron and other common materials, Onion arrived. Carrying the blueprint, the damaged standard combat mecha core pattern powder blue chromium iron and other common materials, Onion arrived at the precision mechanical component processing station. He projected the core structure diagram from the blueprint into the air, forming a three-dimensional mecha core. He then placed the blueprint on a fixed stand to keep the projection suspended. Next, Onion sent blue chromium iron, some rare metals, and a large amount of common metals via conveyor belt into the alloy forging furnace. He then set the core model on the main control console, input various parameters, confirmed all values were accurate, and pressed the switch to activate the alloy forging furnace for the core frame's construction. The temperature inside the furnace instantly reached 5,000 degrees, melting the blue chromium iron into liquid, while other materials were controlled at different temperatures. When all metals had liquefied, high-temperature assistant mechanical arms mixed the various metal liquids together. Then they began spinning at high speed, perfectly blending the metals. Onion closely monitored the conditions inside the furnace. The metal liquid condensed into a high-temperature alloy. Intelligent light beams scanned for impurities within the alloy. Mechanical arms began rapidly and repeatedly forging the alloy. Countless sparks flew inside the furnace as the alloy gradually took shape. Finally, the alloy underwent another round of quenching, removing all impurities and achieving perfect strength. The massive alloy was then reheated, and mechanical arms equipped with various forging tools shaped it into the basic structural framework of the mecha core. Once completed, the framework was transported out. Onion replaced the original damaged standard combat mecha core frame, with this new one completing the core frame's upgrade and repair. Next, he removed all damaged parts, erased the spiritual connection patterns, and finally extracted the core's energy channel conduits. Now comes the engraving of the spiritual connection patterns. This step was the most time-consuming and difficult. Onion took out a transparent box containing pattern powder. Picking up an engraving tool and loading it with pattern powder, Onion began engraving the core. At this moment, he released his spiritual power, connecting and penetrating the pattern powder, and meticulously engraved the spiritual connection pattern step by step according to the blueprint's spiritual pattern structure. Only spiritual connection patterns engraved with spiritual power could be connected by a person's spiritual power after completion. If machines were used instead, although the engraved patterns would be more refined and smooth than human engraved ones, they could not be connected spiritually at all. Because machines lack spiritual power, only living beings possess it. Mechas built with machine engraved patterns could never be piloted. Time flowed slowly. The sky outside had darkened, and the city had entered the realm of night. Onion remained fully focused, engraving the spiritual connection patterns bit by bit according to the core structure diagram's pattern layout. Vina observed and learned his engraving method through a holographic projection camera. Neither of them dared to be distracted, fearing a mistake. After a long while, Onion finally succeeded in engraving the last spiritual connection pattern. All the patterns connected to form a closed circuit. Onion used his spiritual power to link with them, and instantly all the patterns on the core emitted a faint, ethereal blue glow. Yes, he performed a final check of the spiritual connection. All patterns were successfully linked, meaning the hardest step was complete. The rest could be done by machines, simplifying subsequent manufacturing. Onion breathed a sigh of relief, stretching his stiff body. Onion, are the spiritual connection patterns finished? Vina knew he was done, but couldn't help confirming. Yes, they're done, and they turned out perfectly. Onion smiled genuinely as he answered. That's it. Only about 8 hours. That's pretty fast. And this is for a perfect grade mecha's spiritual patterns. I can't even connect the patterns of a fine-grade standard mecha. You're amazing. Vina exclaimed repeatedly. It's nothing. With enough practice, you'll be this fast. In the simulation space, Onion had practiced engraving these patterns hundreds of times. His fastest time was 5 hours. Today's 8th-hour session was a steady pace for reality. This mecha was the result of countless builds and refinements in the simulation space, guided by the Divine Spirit's constant advice, allowing him to design this perfect grade standard combat mecha. Over the past month, he had practiced this mecha the most, simulating the entire manufacturing process and piloting it to hone combat skills. Although the mecha wasn't yet fully built, Onion had already experienced countless battles piloting it in this. It might seem illogical, but the simulation space made it plausible. With the spiritual patterns re-engraved, it was time for the energy channel conduits. Onion stretched and adjusted his mental state, preparing for the next step in upgrading the standard combat mecha core. He looked at the deep-sea fire crystal that had been sitting aside for a long time. It was massive, about the height of a person, and appeared as a dark red crystalline block. Deep-sea fire crystals form at volcanic vents in the abyssal depths of the ocean, with hardness nearly matching the alloy just forged. This material could withstand powerful energy impacts, and had excellent energy conductivity, making it a perfect choice for energy channel conduits. Onion placed the crystal into a super laser cutter. After cutting, it became slender dark red. Using the control console, he directed mechanical arms to install the conduits into the standard combat mecha core, completing the core's upgrade. However, the core wasn't finished yet, as some damaged parts still needed to be fabricated. Onion had to go to the material processing and assembly station to make them from common materials. Then he would install those parts into the core to complete its construction. At the processing station, Onion fed various pre-prepared materials into the machine, and following the blueprint's data, fabricated each part one by one. He then installed all the parts into the mecha core, finishing it. From his spatial bracelet, he retrieved a pre-prepared cockpit and installed it. Standard combat mecha cockpits were all the same, only advanced mechas had differences. That's it, it's done. Tianyun couldn't help but express joy upon seeing the upgraded core finally completed. After crafting the mecha core, Tianyun simply stood there admiring it in silence. The mecha core was a sphere approximately 3 meters in diameter, its surface covered with intricate energy circuits, each glowing a deep crimson hue, the signature color of deep-sea fire crystal. Within its interior lay far more complex blue spiritual connection circuits and a cockpit. When Tianyun later piloted this mecha, he would first enter the cockpit, then link his spiritual power to the connection circuits, making the mecha feel as though it were his own body. Every movement and stillness of the mecha would be completed in the blink of a thought. However, the mecha's reaction speed and strength were determined by the pilot's own physical capabilities. The stronger the pilot's mental power, the faster they could sense changes in their surroundings, leading to quicker neural responses and consequently faster mecha reactions. The greater the pilot's strength, the more powerful the mecha became under its maximum martial reinforcement multiplier. Yet these were still constrained by the grade of the combat mecha itself. For instance, a pilot with mental power at the perception level driving both an ordinary mecha and an extraordinary mecha would experience identical reaction speeds, but the mecha's strength would differ. A pilot with mental power at the spiritual C level piloting an ordinary mecha versus an extraordinary mecha would find not only different reaction speeds, the extraordinary mecha being faster, but also varying strength outputs. The above illustrates how varying mental power levels affect reaction speeds when piloting different grades of mecha. Below shows the changes when gene evolution martial artists of different levels pilot different mecha grades. A low-rank martial artist with a strength of 10 tons pilots an ordinary mecha with a maximum martial reinforcement multiplier of 5, and an extraordinary mecha with a multiplier of 50. The mecha's strength would vary. The ordinary mecha would have a strength of 50 tons, while the extraordinary mecha would reach 500 tons. A mid-rank martial artist with a strength of 1.0 tons pilots an ordinary mecha multiplier 5, and an extraordinary mecha multiplier 50. The ordinary mecha would merely match the mid-rank martial artist's own strength of 1.0 tons, as it lacked the capacity to enhance his power. In contrast, the extraordinary mecha would exert a strength of 5.0 tons, thanks to its ability to augment the mid-rank martial artist's power. Thus, the role of the mecha was self-evident. Each grade was worlds apart. Of course, the mecha's own mass when converted into force during combat was calculated separately. A mecha pilot was essentially a martial artist combined with a mecha. Thus, with the mecha's inherent mass and speed, even a person as weak as a chicken, provided they possessed sufficient mental power to pilot the mecha, could instantly become a formidable mecha pilot. Tianyun's first mecha, the Tianyun mecha, would serve him at most until he became a mid-rank martial artist. But that was a matter for the future. For now, Tianyun was not even a low-rank martial artist. Tianyun, the complexity inside this mecha core rivals that of an extraordinary mecha. Wayna came over to inspect the ordinary combat mecha core that Tianyun had just finished crafting. Haha, Miss Wayna flatters me. It's still far from extraordinary mecha. Tianyun replied humbly. No. The complexity of your ordinary combat mecha core is almost equivalent to that of extraordinary mecha with a maximum martial reinforcement multiplier between 10 and 20 times. Although I'm not very knowledgeable, I've seen many extraordinary mecha cores with a similar level of complexity to yours, and their maximum reinforcement multipliers were around 10 to 20 times. Wayna shook her head with a smile, recalling the extraordinary combat mecha cores she had seen in the past, and spoke truthfully. Tianyun did not respond to Wayna. Instead, he seemed lost in thought. Seeing Tianyun like this, Wayna quietly slipped away from his side, no longer disturbing his mecha crafting. Now I should craft the outer armor. Tianyun operated the large transport robotic arm to feed piles of rare metals onto a conveyor belt going into the alloy forging furnace. The metals used for the mecha's outer armor were the hardest. Following Tianyun's alloy forging formula, the resulting alloy armor was incredibly tough, capable of withstanding impacts of up to 1.000 tons. The alloy forging furnace repeated the previous forging sequence, and soon pieces of outer armor were produced. The outer armor consisted of 1 head armor piece, 1 torso armor piece, 2 arm armor pieces, and 2 leg armor pieces. Next comes the crafting of the mecha component cores. Since the mecha core is in the torso, no torso component core is needed, so they'll have to make 5 mecha component cores. Although crafting component cores isn't troublesome, making 5 of them will take quite some time. Tianyun shook his head and dismissed further thoughts. Crafting a mecha component core was similar to crafting the mecha core itself. However, the mecha core was the central hub commanding all components and systems of the entire mecha. Its difficulty was self-evident. A mecha component core received instructions from the mecha core's spiritual connection circuits and regulated the movements of each component's parts. MOT Onion started with the head's mecha component core. First, he formed the basic structural frame in the alloy forging furnace, then etched spiritual connection circuits on the precision machinery component processing table, and finally assembled the various parts produced on the material processing and assembly machine table. Component cores didn't require a cockpit. After assembly, the head component core was complete. Next, MOT Onion finished the 4 component cores for the arms and legs. It sounded simple, but MOT Onion spent several more hours on it. During this time, Wayna left the mecha crafting workbench for a while. MOT Onion didn't pay it any mind. "Shauna, why have you been at the mecha crafting workbench all day?" A tall, handsome, middle-aged man looked at Wayna with eyes full of affection and asked. This tall, handsome man was none other than Wayna's father. Wayna's exquisite beauty and well-proportioned figure were clearly inherited from him. Seeing her father, Wayna hesitated for a moment, then decided to tell him about MOT Onion. "Father, I have a friend who is crafting a mecha inside the workbench." "Oh, a friend," Wayna's father revealed, a meaningful smile. "This is the first time I've heard you mention male or female." Wayna's father began pressing for details. Having been pampered her whole life, his daughter had always been extremely willful and had never mentioned having any friends. This was indeed the first time. "Oh dear, what does male or female matter? That's not important." Wayna felt at a loss at her father's question. "Father, let me tell you." After regaining her composure, Wayna told her father about MOT Onion. This included everything from her first encounter with MOT Onion to his current mecha crafting. "No wonder you've matured so much these past few days. You've been humbled. But that kid dared to make my daughter lose face. I must give him a proper lesson." When Wayna mentioned the bookstore incident, her father said with some irritation, "A perfect grade mecha blueprint." Upon hearing Wayna say that MOT Onion had designed a perfect grade ordinary combat mecha blueprint, Wayna's father immediately became serious. "Oh, he's already finished crafting the mecha core." Wayna's father began to sense that something was extraordinary. "And even the 5 component cores are almost done. Doesn't that mean this perfect grade ordinary combat mecha is about to be born?" Wayna's father was gradually overwhelmed by shock. "Yes, father. Would you like to go see it? The mecha might be finished soon." Wayna couldn't help teasing upon seeing her father's excitement. "A perfect mecha? I haven't seen one in many years. I must see just what kind of prodigy this MOT Onion is to be able to design a perfect mecha." With that, Wayna's father and Wayna together arrived at Mecha Crafting Workbench No. 3. Inside Mecha Manufacturing Workstation No. 3. MOT Onion let out a long breath. Finally finished crafting these 5 mecha component cores. MOT Onion gazed at the 5 mecha component cores and began preparing for the next stage of mecha construction. This was the large mechanical power system manufacturing station. MOT Onion would craft the mecha's power system here. With an energy supply, the power system could drive the mecha. The stronger the power system, the faster the mecha's speed. The greater the speed, the more force the mecha could unleash under high velocity. Additionally, the power system enabled the mecha to soar freely through the skies and cosmic space. If the mecha had excellent waterproofing, it could even roam underwater. A blueprint appeared in MOT Onion's hand. This was the design for the power system, the super photon energy. This power system had 3 modes: standard mode, full power mode, and overdrive mode. In standard mode, the mecha's maximum speed reached 200 meters per second. In full power mode, the maximum speed reached 500 meters per second. In overdrive mode, it reached 1000 meters per second. The last mode generated astonishing power, but prolonged activation could damage the power system or even render it completely scrapped. The first 2 modes would not. Activating overdrive mode meant either instantly obliterating the opponent to end the battle or reaching a critical moment where victory or defeat hung in the balance. In the former case, the battle ended swiftly and the power system suffered no damage. In the latter, it was a matter of life and death. Who would care about damaging the power system when defeat made even escape nearly impossible? Though the power system was complex, with the blueprint inputting various models and parameters and adding materials, it could be manufactured. A good power system was judged by its power output and energy consumption. The greater the power and the lower the consumption, the better. MOT Onion soon completed crafting the power system. Now came the mecha's energy conversion reactor. This was the source of the mecha's energy powering the system. Energy was output here, transmitted to the mecha core, and then through energy circuits to the component cores. Following the pre-designed blueprint, he placed rare metal materials into the alloy forging furnace to complete the forging. Then came further processing, carving energy circuits, inserting energy conduits. MOT Onion quickly finished crafting the energy conversion reactor. After completion, he needed to test the energy conversion reaction intensity within the reactor. MOT Onion transmitted the energy conversion reactor to the energy intensity testing device, secured it, and placed a mid-grade energy crystal inside the reactor. He activated the energy conversion reactor. The next second, a roar emanated from within, and the mid-grade energy crystal could be seen releasing its energy. The mid-grade energy crystal continuously radiated brilliant energy, unleashing immense power. Most of this energy entered the energy transmission conduits, while a small portion was lost. The energy transmission conduits inside the reactor were also made of deep-sea fire crystal. Now they lit up, casting a crimson glow within. He turned on the energy intensity testing device and began the test. The test was complete. Results: energy intensity level planetary grade mid-tier. Energy output value 10. 645. Standard combat mechas can withstand at most mid-tier planetary grade energy. That was within my expectations. But the energy output exceeded them. Reaching 10 could enhance combat power tenfold. This output seemed capable of surpassing the mecha's limits. While Mo Tianyun was testing the energy conversion reactor, Vina and her father arrived at Mecha Manufacturing Workstation No. 3. Mo Tianyun. The door to Workstation No. 3 opened again, and Vina's voice reached Mo Tianyun's ears. Mo Tianyun turned to see a tall, handsome, middle-aged man beside Vina. Looking closely, the man's facial features resembled Vina's, and they seemed like a father and daughter walking together. This must be Vina's father. Mo Tianyun observed, briefly thinking silently. Miss Vina, who is? Mo Tianyun still asked Vina. Mo Tianyun, this is my father, Vina said with a smile. Hello. Mo Tianyun respectfully greeted the handsome man beside Vina. I am Mo Tianyun. With Miss Vina's help, I was able to come here to build my mecha. Hello. I am Vina's father, Anders Light. Vina told me you were building a mecha, so I came to see. How? Vina's father asked curiously. Uncle Light, the mecha construction is nearing its final stage. Mo Tianyun answered truthfully. We want to disturb you. May we come back to see it when you're done? Of course, you're both welcome. Vina's father nodded and said no more. Keep it up, Mo Tianyun. You must build the mecha perfectly. Vina smiled at Mo Tianyun. Mo Tianyun went to the material processing and assembly station and placed the final batch of materials inside. Now he would manufacture all the parts and assemble them. These parts must achieve perfect compatibility. Then the fit between components will be flawless. He input data one by one according to the blueprint without any carelessness. A screen appeared on the control panel emitting light that continuously scanned each mecha outer armor and component core. Strings of data then rapidly flickered across the screen. Mo Tianyun meticulously analyzed every piece of data. Part No. 1 manufactured. Analyzing part condition. Analysis complete. Pass. No. 2. Pass. No. 3. Pass. Part No. 10085. Pass. All parts pass. Ready to assemble the mecha components. Mo Tianyun knew the critical moment was near. Whether the mecha could be perfectly built depended on whether all components achieved perfect compatibility. Standing before the main control console, Mo Tianyun directed the machine assembly arms to piece together all the mecha outer armor parts, mecha core, component cores, power system, and energy conversion reactor into components. Countless mechanical arms worked at high speed, gradually assembling scattered parts, armor, and cores into unified components. Done. The mecha head, torso, left arm, left leg, and right leg were all neatly arrayed before Mo Tianyun. Among them, the torso was the largest, housing the mecha core, energy conversion reactor, and power system. However, the energy shield had not yet been installed in the torso. Mo Tianyun had already prepared it and would install it during the final assembly. Mo Tianyun transmitted all components to the large mechanical workstation via the main control console. The final work would be completed here. Under Mo Tianyun's control, the large mechanical workstation used a lifting platform to secure and suspend the torso component in midair. Then Mo Tianyun operated the mechanical arms to install the omnidirectional energy shield onto the torso. The shield's strength was related to the energy core's intensity and total energy capacity. The higher the energy intensity, the sturdier the shield. The greater the total energy, the longer the shield could withstand. The energy core of the mecha Mo Tianyun built was the energy conversion reactor. After installing the energy shield, he attached the arms and legs to the torso, followed by the head. At this point, the mecha assembly was complete, but Mo Tianyun did not show joy. It was too early to celebrate, because final tests were still needed. Mo Tianyun entered the cockpit within the mecha core via the lift platform. He donned the neural interface and released his mental energy into the neural connection circuits. Mo Tianyun felt as if he had become the mecha itself. Neural connection successful. He then activated the energy conversion reactor. Energy core activated. Power system activated. Standard mode. In an instant, the energy conversion reactor output a surge of energy, which flowed through energy circuit conduits into the mecha core, then onward to each component core. Warning. There's a problem. Mo Tianyun stared intently at the cockpit's intelligence screen, which showed an energy transmission interruption in the mecha's head. He then carefully inspected the other components. Energy transmission to the mecha head is malfunctioning. Though the mecha's fatal weak point was its core, the head's role was akin to that of a human head. The mecha's head housed numerous detection devices, the mecha's eyes. It also contained receiving equipment serving as the mecha's nose and ears. Additionally, the head housed devices for emitting sound and transmitting signals, the mecha's mouth. In short, a mecha without a head was like a headless fly. Mo Tianyun returned to the main control console, disassembled the mecha head, and used penetrating light to scan its interior. Vina and her father came to his side. Vina's father asked the problem. Yes, I found the cause, a faulty energy circuit conduit. Mo Tianyun discovered a tiny gap between conduits causing energy leakage. Found it? That fast? Vina's father was somewhat astonished. Finding the cause so soon after the issue arose was indeed efficient. Mo Tianyun disassembled the mecha head, machined a new deep-sea fire crystal conduit, installed it, and sealed the energy circuits. The mecha was reassembled. Neural connection successful. Energy core activated. Power system activated. Energy transmission successful. Mecha construction complete. Mo Tianyun knew his first mecha was about to be born. Initiating seamless sealing and welding of the entire mecha. Welding complete. Mecha paint design input successful. Beginning painting now. Painting complete. My mecha is finished. Mo Tianyun couldn't help but exclaim loudly as he gazed at the Tianyun mecha before him. Mo Tianyun, is your mecha finished? Vina heard Mo Tianyun's words and quickly trotted over to him. Huh? Yes. Mo Tianyun gazed at the mecha he had built, a joyful nod escaping him. The mecha before him stood 18 meters tall and weighed 2300 tons. It was considered enormous among standard mechas. Typically, standard mechas range from 10 to 15 meters in height and weighed between 100 and 1500 tons. Then congratulations are in order. Vina, standing nearby, smiled as she looked at the newly completed mecha. What are the mecha's stats? Vina's father couldn't help but ask Mo Tianyun. Mo Tianyun pulled up the mecha's data on the console and projected it into the air. Tianyun mecha. Combat mecha grade standard. Mecha height 18 meters, weight 2300 tons. Energy core level planetary intermediate. Energy output 10. 654. Standard speed 200 meters per second. Maximum speed 1000 meters per second. Maximum combat enhancement multiplier 10. Evaluation perfect grade standard combat mecha. Energy shield strength planetary intermediate. Weapons none. Other accessories none. Mecha AI level low. Detector auto-adjusting detection laser periscope planetary intermediate. Receiver ultrasonic detection receiver planetary intermediate. Human vocal cord simulator. Indeed, it's perfect grade. Since I graduated, I've never seen anyone else able to craft a perfect grade mecha, not even a perfect grade standard combat one. Vina's father sighed and shook his head. Though he could craft transcendent combat mechas, he found it difficult to even design a perfect standard combat mecha. However, the basic functional accessories loaded onto this mecha are a bit low in grade. They should at least reach planetary superior. Vina's father advised Mo Tianyun. By the way, why doesn't this mecha have any weapons? Vina's father, uncle, these basic functional accessories are the best I can offer at the moment. As for weapons, I'll craft them now. Mo Tianyun produced a giant greatsword from his spatial bracelet. The greatsword was 12 meters long and 5 meters wide. There was also a mecha accessory core. This was precisely the giant greatsword Mo Tianyun had found in the mecha graveyard. The material of this giant greatsword was even more advanced than the deep-sea fire crystal, the highest grade material used in the mecha he had just completed. Deep-sea fire crystal was extremely rare, and Mo Tianyun required a large quantity, hence its value of 200 star coins. The metal forged into this giant greatsword was naturally formed deep within a star. Since this metal was relatively common in the depths of stars, and not particularly rare, it was merely an ordinary rare metal. For the Empire, exploiting a star was a very simple task. However, because this metal was cheap and exceptionally strong, it was highly suitable for crafting mecha weapons. Mo Tianyun then crafted a new mecha accessory core. He entered the accessory fabrication workstation, repolished, and sharpened the giant greatsword, and embedded the core into it. Thus the weapon was completed. Vina and her father watched Mo Tianyun complete the mecha weapon crafting with fluid grace, finding it somewhat astonishing. These were mecha accessories after all. Although mecha crafters could handle them, how many ordinary mecha crafters had the time and energy to learn so many skills? Haha, Mo Tianyun, you're truly a mecha crafting genius. Vina's father laughed heartily. Yes. Vina nodded in agreement. Not at all. Mo Tianyun shook his head. Grandpa Zika always said that there are always people better than you and skies beyond your sky. One must recognize their own insignificance to make greater progress. Thus, Mo Tianyun had been exceptionally diligent at school since childhood, never daring to slack off, even when he was at the top of the entire school. I heard from Vina that you don't have an Imperial Identity card. In that case, he'll grant you a standard Imperial Identity card. This way you'll have the status of a mecha crafter. They'll notify the guild master now. Once he arrives, you should be able to obtain the identity of a junior mecha crafter. Vena's father was more than willing to build connections, especially with such a talented mecha crafter. Mo Tianyun at such a young age could already craft a perfect grade standard combat mecha. Perhaps in the future, he might even craft an epic mecha and become a master mecha crafter. This favor would be substantial. After all, the entire planet Ururu did not have a single master mecha crafter. At the very least, given Mo Tianyun's current mecha crafting skills, he would eventually become a senior mecha crafter matching Vena's father's own level. Building goodwill now would never be a loss. Mo Tianyun was taken aback by Vena's father's words. First granting him a standard Imperial identity card, then helping him become a junior mecha crafter. If so, he could save himself a lot of trouble, but the debt of gratitude would be immense. Mo Tianyun knew that if he accepted help now, he would have to repay it manifold in the future. Vena heard her father's words and silently celebrated for Mo Tianyun in her heart. Mo Tianyun, this is a standard Imperial identity card. Just input your personal information, but don't input it carelessly. It must match your current identity details. Vena's father produced a card labeled Standard Identity Card. Alright, thank you, uncle. Mo Tianyun ultimately accepted Vena's father's help, because it would save him a great deal of trouble. Mo Tianyun could now join the Imperial Army, and once enlisted, he could go kill Zergs and exchange their cores for points. This was his top priority. As for Vena's father's assistance, he would remember it for now and repay it gradually when he had the strength. Name: Mo Tianyun. Gender: male. Date of birth: January 1st, year 23, era 61227. Age 15. Status: none. Mo Tianyun began entering his personal information. Identity verification successful. Mo Tianyun finally had his own Imperial identity card. Now he could join the Imperial Army. In truth, the Imperial identity card had a wide range of uses. The closer one got to the Empire's core planets, the more significant the card's functions became. With it, one could access many places, migrate to other planets, and so on. At that moment, the door to Mecha Fabrication Workstation 3 opened again. An elderly man with white hair entered. Guild Master, you've arrived. This is the mecha crafting genius I mentioned. Vena's father introduced Mo Tianyun to the old man with great respect. Mo Tianyun was startled at the sight of the newcomer. Isn't this the senior who gave me the deep sea fire crystal and the spatial orb? It really is you, young man. I was just wondering who else in Han City besides you could craft a perfect grade standard combat mecha. The elder also spotted Mo Tianyun wearing an expression as if he had anticipated this. President, have you two already met? Vena's father, seeing this, realized that the president and Mo Tianyun already knew each other. Indeed, he passed my test at my place yesterday and obtained the deep sea fire crystal and the space orb. If I'm not mistaken, the mecha he just built has already utilized the deep sea fire crystal. The old president pointed calmly at the mecha Mo Tianyun had just constructed. Yes, elder, you are correct. I have forged the deep sea fire crystal you gave me into the energy circuit conduits of the mecha. Mo Tianyun nodded. Did you leave these drafts for me? The old president pulled out a stack of drafts. These were precisely the ones Mo Tianyun had left for him earlier. Mo Tianyun nodded again. Young man, your drafts have greatly inspired my design for an epic mecha. I was just thinking of thanking you, but I had no way to find you. And now I've run into you again. What a stroke of fate, haha. The old president said cheerfully. Is that so? I'm glad it was helpful to you, elder. Mo Tianyun replied with delight. President, may I take a look at these drafts? Hearing the president say that Mo Tianyun's drafts had greatly aided his epic mecha design, Vena's father set aside his astonishment and eagerly wished to see them. You may, but remember to return them after. The old president handed the drafts to Vena's father. Alright, I'll take. Vena's father was immediately absorbed in the mecha design sketches within the drafts. Incredible. So the mecha core can be designed like this. This spiritual connection circuit is utterly astonishing. Vena, watching her father from the side, was utterly bewildered. Could Mo Tianyun's mecha crafting skills actually surpass her father's? Mo Tianyun's mecha crafting prowess was so formidable that it repeatedly shattered Vena's understanding. She began to feel that Mo Tianyun was shrouded in an aura of mystery. She now found herself unable to resist the urge to uncover just how many secrets he still held. Hey, don't get too lost in it. This old man has studied these drafts for quite a while. If not for your message ID, probably still be at it. The old president, seeing his vice president Mr. Right completely engrossed in the draft designs, couldn't help but give him a nudge. Oh, haha, my apologies. I got a bit too carried away. Right, Vena's father let out a hearty laugh. Are these drafts really from this young friend, Mo Tianyun? Right wanted to confirm once more, for if true, this news would be almost unbelievable. After all, it was already astonishing enough that Mo Tianyun had just successfully crafted a perfect grade standard combat mecha. His own daughter Vena was the same age as Mo Tianyun, and her mecha crafting skills were the highest among all her peers in Han City. Even he at that age had been slightly inferior to his daughter in mecha crafting. That was why he had devoted so much effort to teaching her, hoping she would one day surpass him in achievement. His daughter Vina could only barely craft a standard combat mecha, and even then, it was a fine grade 1 with a maximum combat power multiplier of about 4 times. But Mo Tianyan's mecha crafting level struck him as utterly absurd. He aimed to craft a perfect grade standard combat mecha right off the bat, and had already succeeded. And now, he had intended to lend a helping hand to Mo Tianyan while he was still a novice to provide timely. Unexpectedly, Mo Tianyan already knew the president, and the content of the drafts he had gifted had touched upon the threshold of epic mecha crafting. In other words, Mo Tianyan's mecha crafting skills were already on par with his own. Wright felt that his nearly 30 years of mecha crafting experience had been in vain. He might not even measure up to a teenager. Haha, right, isn't it astonishing? The old president laughed, gently patting Wright's arm. Yes, it's truly hard to believe. Wright nodded. Then, as if recalling something, the old president spoke casually. At his age, reaching such a level in mecha crafting is something many prodigies within the Empire can also achieve. On the Empire's main planet, there are many ancient mecha crafting families whose heirs can already forge epic mechas by the time they are teenagers. The old president mused as he spoke. As far as I know, there seem to be 6 true prodigies in mecha crafting within the Empire. His words silenced the entire room. Vina and Mo Tianyan listened with rapt attention. The first is named Kota. He is 17 years old and completed an epic mecha just 2 months ago. He is now not only a master mecha crafter, but also an epic grade combat mecha pilot. He is also the son of Marshal Cole. The son of Marshal Cole. Truly a tiger father begets no dog son. Everyone present thought the same. The second is Charles Locke, the heir of the Locke family, the Empire's 3rd mecha crafting family. He completed an epic mecha a year ago. He had just turned 16 at the time, and he finished it on his Comingafage day. This feat spread throughout the entire Empire. Upon hearing this, Vina was filled with disbelief. At 15, she struggled to craft even a standard mecha. She knew she couldn't reach that level in a year, or even in a decade. Could I have crafted the Thousand Swords mecha at 16? Mo Tianyan silently asked himself. Vina's father, Wright, remained silent. The third is Kyle Balamina, the inheritor of the Kyle family, the Empire's 2nd mecha crafting family. She completed an epic mecha at the age of 15. The fourth is the Empire's 17th princess, Princess Lisa. She completed an epic mecha 2 years ago, becoming a master mecha crafter. At that time she was only 14, not even 15 yet. The fifth is Brock Latourt, the heir of the Brock family, the Empire's premier mecha crafting family. He also completed an epic mecha at 14, becoming a master mecha crafter. He is now 16. The last one is Adrian Carmen. He is truly remarkable. 5 years ago, at the age of 12, he completed an epic mecha. I've heard he is now preparing to craft a legendary mecha. His grandfather is the Empire's chief mecha crafter, Adrian Carmen. The old president narrated the deeds of each prodigy with a steady voice.